Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. The new year is about making New Year's resolutions. Have you made yours? How's it going so far? Are you keeping it? Or do you have specific goals laid out? Well, certainly many Americans like to do resolutions about health, maybe exercise, finances, that sort of thing. Let's bring in Valerie Greenberg. She is the founder of the celebrity website You'veBeenValidated.com. She regularly appears on national television and talks about what celebrities are doing in the new year. Valerie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Andrew. Happy New Year. How are you doing?
Happy New Year. I am doing well. What kind of resolutions do celebrities make in 2023? What's new on their list?
I love that. So a lot of my friends that are housewives on the Bravo franchise, Real Housewives of, ever heard of it? Just kidding. They constantly are telling me that it's all about getting started, whether it be a fitness goal or a financial goal or just a taking care of yourself kind of a goal. It's not about perfection. And I think a lot of us are afraid to step up to the plate unless we think that we can finish something absolutely perfect. But really, it's about getting started and moving forward.
You know, Valerie, that's interesting you say that because it is something that we've been talking about a lot here at Action News 5 in Memphis. Various resolutions out there, a lot of suggestions on the ways to keep the resolutions because on average, Americans give it up usually within that first month. Any suggestions for creating that new you out there?
Absolutely. So it really starts with self-care and taking care of yourself first, because if you don't do that, how are you going to really perform or take care of anybody that you love or care for? So I recommend creating an at-home spa experience with Earth Kiss and their beautiful range of kombucha-based face masks while relaxing and listening to the Earth Kiss Experience app. Now, their face masks create a radiant glow because it couples the benefits of both spirulina and kombucha. That's going to really boost that dry, thirsty, tired skin. Extra important this time of year, especially. Now, believe it or not, you can get this for under $4 at Rite Aid. I put it on one evening and literally I went to an event the next day and it happened to be a skincare event. And I had no makeup on and people were complimenting me right and left. Plus my skin felt amazing. So I highly recommend it.
We've been talking a lot about money resolutions, finances, getting out of debt. Those are always big New Year's resolution goals out there. Any recommendations?
For sure. So growing our savings is a really great way to become more financially well-being, more financially just great in all ways, shapes, and forms. So I consider PayPal Savings, and I think that you should too, provided by Synchrony Bank. PayPal Savings is an amazing tool that's really going to incorporate because it's going to optimize your financial wellness to achieve your saving goals. And I'm not that great with finances, so this is excellent. It basically comes with an APY that's 12 times the national average, which is pretty incredible. And it's going to allow you to have easy to set goals, earn interest, and track your progress with no minimum balance or monthly fees. Plus, they have auto-save features, and you can set up automatic transfers to really get you where you need to be. So visit paypal.com to find out more about this. PayPal Savings from Synchrony Bank.
Valerie Greenberg, we really appreciate the time this morning. We got some severe weather in the Memphis Mid-South area, so we got to run, but thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Very active here across the Mid-South. It's all part of a cold front. We've been seeing its impact since yesterday, and it is continuing this morning. Widespread and some heavy rain. We've even had a couple of storm warnings across the Mid-South this morning, and that will continue to be the case over the next several hours. Now, in addition to warnings, we also have a tornado watch that is in effect. Now, at this point, Shelby County has been dropped from that, but as of 7:30 this morning, we do have portions of West Tennessee, Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy counties that are still included in that, all of North Mississippi as well. That tornado watch is going to go through 11 o'clock this morning. And again, a watch means that it can happen. But as far as our storm threats are concerned, it really is going to be heavy rain that continues to be the big issue. We've had reports of flooding across the Mid-South. We've even seen interstates closed down because of flooding and damaging wind gusts too. But yes, we are going to watch out for rotation as we are heading throughout the day today, or at least throughout this morning too. So we've got several flood advisories and warnings that are in effect across the Mid-South, and these are actually individual warnings, but they're all kind of connecting and making one large one here. So again, there is ongoing flooding concerns across the Mid-South as that system tracks towards the east. So by 9-10 o'clock this morning, we should see the leading edge of this front making its way out of Lafayette County over towards Ashland, over towards Corinth too. We're still going to have some widespread rain across West Tennessee, North Mississippi, but eastern Arkansas starting to dry out by 9-10 o'clock this morning. And then by lunchtime, we'll see that drier air continue to make its way into West Tennessee. I think by 11 o'clock or noon, we should start seeing the leading edge of this storm system and the strongest rain and the strongest winds and heaviest rain moving out of the area. But we're still not going to be quite done with the rain, even as we're heading throughout the afternoon and evening. At least some of us, I do think, could see additional storm development, mainly across North Mississippi, maybe eastern portions of West Tennessee as we're heading into late this evening and tonight. Otherwise, we will see that drier air move in by this afternoon for most locations. But very heavy rainfall as we are heading throughout the day today. We could see an additional half an inch to an inch of rain across portions of the Mid-South as that system rolls through. There could even be some locally higher amounts. So the flooding that we're already experiencing this morning, well, it very well could be exaggerated as we're heading throughout the afternoon. And winds are also going to be pretty gusty and breezy today. Winds out of the south giving us some warm air. We've got these winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour this morning, and we're going to see that continue to be the case even as we're heading throughout the afternoon. They'll start to become much more calm as we're heading into this evening with those wind gusts in the teens, and then eventually we should see a calm wind as we are heading into the overnight hours tonight. As mentioned, it still is going to be warm today though with those southerly winds. Highs near 70 degrees across portions of West Tennessee, 68 in Ripley, 68 in Brownsville. We've got 69 in Selmer with 70 degrees here in Memphis. We'll see some low 70s in North Mississippi with 71 in Marks, 70 in Clarksdale. We've got 69 in Tunica, 70 in Forest City with 68 degrees in Blytheville. So unseasonably warm weather continues for today, but once we get this system out of here, drier air moves in and our temperatures will also be cooler, but overall seasonable, meaning right where they should be for this time of year. After all, it is the beginning of January and 70 degrees is unseasonably warm. 57 as we're heading into tomorrow, cooler after that with highs near 50 on Thursday, 52 on Friday. Notice those overnight lows will be a little chilly too with those into the 30s, but we rebound to the 40s for lows as we head into the weekend and mid and upper 50s for highs on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, we could see a couple of isolated showers. Your weekend doesn't look like a total washout, but something that we'll continue to monitor as we are heading throughout the rest of this week.
Okay, a known gang member arrested for reportedly being involved in the murder of Markeith Taylor. And according to Memphis police, Ontario Owens was armed and stood over Taylor as he was shot. A witness positively identified Owens in a 6-person photo lineup. He's charged with first-degree murder. Investigators say 3 other men were also on the scene. 2 of those men were identified as Daniel Bates and Gary Taylor. So here's the thing. The known gang member charged with reportedly shooting Markeith Taylor walked out of 201 Poplar without any bond required. And there's a lot of people across the Mid-South that say this case is a perfect example of what's wrong with the Shelby County criminal justice system. Action News 5's Joyce Peterson reports.
Wednesday, December 21st, 660 Wells Avenue in North Memphis. Cops say the victim, Markeith Taylor, was shot and killed in a vacant lot. A witness positively identified 26-year-old Gary Taylor as the alleged gunman. The court affidavit says Taylor is a known gang member who goes by the nickname Lil Gary. It also says due to the concern for the safety of the witness, the full name is being withheld. 10 days after the crime, Lil Gary was arrested. But then, one day later, he was released on his own recognizance. This Shelby County Pretrial Services bail setting form shows no bail for a known gang member charged with first-degree murder. The zero bond issued by Judicial Commissioner Robert Barber. Taylor's release, just the latest in a dangerous trend in Shelby County courts, says Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland.
This revolving door is like catch and release. Fishermen often do that. They'll catch and release. Police are catching, and the courts are letting him go. That has to end.
Of Gary Taylor's release, Mayor Strickland tells Action News 5 it is outrageous that a person charged with first-degree murder is so easily released from jail. This is yet another example of the revolving door at 201 Poplar, which puts us all at risk by releasing violent criminals back in the community and sends a signal to other offenders that there is little consequence to their violent actions. And this statement from Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy. The DA's office is aware of the inquiries surrounding the case of Gary Taylor, who's charged with first-degree murder and was recently released on his own recognizance. The DA's office played no role in the decision to release Mr. Taylor pending trial. However, we are monitoring the situation.
Okay, so West Memphis, Arkansas man is currently behind bars after a fatal hit and run over the holiday weekend. Investigators say Dontario Allen, that you see here, was intoxicated when he reportedly hit 36-year-old Jamie Bailey with his car, 2200 block of East Broadway. Crash happened December 30th. Baylor died on New Year's Day. Allen expected to be charged with negligent homicide, among other charges. All right, so while Memphians were ringing in the new year, there was also rounds and rounds of gunfire, unfortunately. Memphis police tell us there were hundreds of shots fired. This is New Year's Eve in the day. We're talking about 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. from Memphians. Bria Bolden reports on this. Check this out.
As Memphians headed into 2023, this sound could be heard all over and over again.
Shooting a gun in the air is one of the most dangerous things that you can do. You don't have a designated target. What goes up comes down.
From 9 o'clock New Year's Eve until 6 a.m. New Year's Day, Memphis police received 609 unconfirmed calls of shots fired all over the city.
Rapid fire.
Police say 357 confirmed fired shots came from two different areas of Memphis, near the Tillman and Airway Station precincts. But retired Shelby County Sheriff's Office Captain Benny Cobb says there were probably more.
This, to me, tells me the number of times they were alerted, that the shot spotter may have detected that it's gunfire. But I grant you and I guarantee you there was at least 8 to 10 times more rounds fired in a 9-hour period of time.
MPD says the Tillman and Airway stations both have ShotSpotter, a gunfire detection tool. Binghamton homeowners Matthew Holmes and Taylor Horner Holmes have lived in the area for a little over a year. The celebratory gunfire experienced over the holiday is the last thing they wanted to hear to ring in a new year.
I just think it's crazy that you shooting these shots and you have no regard for where they're going or where they're landing or what effect they can have on other people.
If they're going to do something stupid, be smart about it. Have it safe where, because at the end of the day, I have 2 kids in here, and last thing I want is a stray bullet to come through.
Crazy stuff there. So the city installed something called a ShotSpotter at Tillman and Airways precincts back in 2021. Price tag on the 3-year contract, about $650,000. That it was from federal grant money. Let's talk about the town of Earle, Arkansas. It's a town of less than 2,000 people. It now has the youngest mayor in the U.S., Jalen Smith, sworn into office on Sunday. Smith says he plans to focus on public safety, housing, and building a grocery store in a town of about 1,700. He said he'd like to be president one day. Right now his focus is, though, on being mayor and continuing his education through online courses. All right, the federal rent relief program, known as COVID-19 rent relief in Tennessee, ends this Friday. This program is helping people keep their housing during the pandemic. Action News 5's Cindy Gray has more on this program as it ends.
The Tennessee Housing Development Agency has provided millions in relief to those behind on utilities and rent payments, all in an effort to keep people from being evicted during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The state itself got $313 million to be able to provide in rental assistance, and my understanding is that only about $38 million of that has been spent.
Friday, the portal to access those funds will close, forcing some renters to find other resources or face eviction, a new reality post-pandemic as illustrated by a new exhibit at the Benjamin L. Hooks Central Library.
If you don't have housing, you can't go to work and be productive. Kids can't go to school and learn. People can't come home and rest and refill from whatever else is going on. So the linkage to mental health, the linkage to personal relationships, to education, employment, mental well-being, success, they all go back to housing. And if you don't have housing, you can't have the rest of it.
If you're in that situation, if you have received something from your landlord, the first thing that you want to do is A, talk to your landlord, and B, talk to an attorney.
If you can't afford a private attorney, use local resources.
We're available. I mean, Memphis Area Legal Services and our housing unit in particular, that is our function.
Ettengoff says understanding the court process is critical.
If nothing else, this is what it looks like when you go to court. This is the room you go in. This is the courtroom you go to. This is what you have to wear, because if you come in with the saggy pants, they will likely not let you in their courtroom.
And even if Memphis Area Legal Services can't take your case, their experts will talk you through your options.
But buying someone time to try to do better, to get back to work, to get a child well or back to school, or to just those things for now, that's being worked on. I think every entity that serves the public in the city and county are interested in doing that.
Sydney Gray, Action News 5.
Memphis Area Legal Services hosting free clinics every Saturday at Benjamin L. Hooks Library there. But let's move over to Metro Nashville Police, currently investigating an apparent murder-suicide. A couple from West Tennessee believed to be involved here. This happened at the Doubletree Hotel, 4th Avenue, downtown Nashville. Police not releasing details other than the man and woman involved appeared to be dating. Awful situation here last night, Monday Night Football. This is Cincinnati versus Buffalo, and Bills safety Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field after making that tackle there. This was in the first quarter. Had to be given CPR on the field for nearly 10 minutes. Went into cardiac arrest. Just a scary scene, and most football analysts, and in fact all of them, including Herman Edwards, who's been around football his entire life, has said he's never seen anything like this. What happened yesterday? Hamlin was eventually taken off the field in an ambulance. He's listed in critical condition right now, sedated in the hospital. And as you can see, a prayer circle among all the players there, and fans also had a circle for his recovery.
We're just praying. We're praying that, he pulls through this and he makes it through this, as we hope that he will. And that's why we're here tonight. Saying just because we're a Bengals fan doesn't mean we're not a fan of his. I feel like Cincinnati and the Bengals, team, we're a family, and we care about everybody when you're a family. You care about everybody in your families.
At last check, Hamlin does have a pulse. He is not breathing on his own. Again, he's very sedated, listed in critical condition at University Hospital in Cincinnati. All right, so Mississippi State's football team honored their late head coach, Mike Leach, during the game last night against Illinois in the ReliaQuest Bowl. This is the first game for Mississippi State since his death last month. The team wore pirate-themed helmets there. They took a delay of game penalty from air raid formation to start their possession. Of course, Mike Leach known for the air raid offense. Mississippi State went on to win this bowl game 19-10. Certainly Mike Leach among many thoughts and the hearts and minds of many in Mississippi State Nation. Okay, an Atlanta area real estate agent who's not a professional golfer was recently invited to play golf's most prestigious event. You can see it there, the Masters. Scott Stallings said he received a package with an invite for this April. He quickly realized the package was intended for a different Scott Stallings, who's in fact a pro golfer. The realtor reached out to the golfer via Instagram to let him know about the oversight. Realtor took the invitation to a local shipping store and mailed it to the rightful owner. Okay, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. There are two articles posted right now on commercialappeal.com, and they talk about two very important things and events that have happened over the course of the last week or so ago. One of which focuses on MLGW and the Memphis infrastructure with regards to the winter storm. The other one focuses on TVA and the CEO saying it failed with these rolling blackouts when we have had horrible weather over the last week to 10 days. Let's bring in the author of both of these articles, Sam Hardiman with the Commercial Appeal. Sam, Happy New Year to you. Appreciate both of these articles, Sam. They're so relevant right now, and certainly it's, again, I want to make mention that it's available on Action on commercialappeal.com. Did anything surprise you when you were working on both of these stories?
What surprised me, Andrew, is the first story that we're talking about today, which is about the status of MLG&W's infrastructure. This is the third year in a row the Commercial Appeal has published a similar story, which is just showing that in these past 3 years, as Memphis has struggled with bad weather, infrastructure has been unreliable. And that sort of history repeating itself over and over, as I have a friend here seeking attention, is very surprising in a way, because you don't expect things to happen just like that.
Your friend's cute, I gotta say, Sam. I appreciate your friend there. But you know, what's interesting about that MLGW article is I got the impression when reading it, Sam, is that I felt like they kept talking, hey, there's improvements, there's help on the way, essentially. But you know, I think people in Memphis or MLGW customers might be skeptical about that until they see a severe weather event or a Mother Nature event come and go with little to no interruption in service, right?
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, right? The mayor and MLG&W CEO Doug McGowan are both quoted in the piece talking about the MLG&W Way Forward plan, which is a $1.2 billion infrastructure package that's supposed to really fix up the electrical grid and the water distribution system. And a significant amount of that money has already been spent, MLG&W says. However, as McGowan notes in the article, and we quote him as saying, he said he would be a fool to forecast that the infrastructure couldn't have issues again in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. And what we're really writing about here and what we're talking about this morning are generational issues. A infrastructure grid, electrical grid, water distribution system does not become aged overnight. It happens over decades. And so right now, Memphis and the sort of frustration that I think a lot of Memphians feel, a lot of MLG&W customers feel, in which their holidays were wholly disrupted in a lot of ways by shoddy infrastructure and an unreliable grid in some ways. That frustration in the short term has been baked into the cake over decades. And so people are right to be skeptical.
I also want to point our viewers to the fact that it is posted. They can read it for themselves on commercialappeal.com. The other article, Sam, that you wrote about was from the TVA, the CEO, talking about the rolling blackouts and taking responsibility, how it failed, that sort of thing. It's interesting because what I found interesting was that these rolling blackouts occurred, like a month after MLGW signed their contract, their 5-year contract. Was it a month? Was it even more than that? I mean, it seemed like
it wasn't. MLGW has not signed anything new. They have stayed on a current contract.
Okay.
And so this is just happening a month after MLG&W, maybe even less than a month, about 3 weeks. After MLG&W, their board voted not to sign a long-term generational contract with TVA and commit to TVA for 40 plus years, most likely. That's the key kind of interesting component there. MLG&W is on an evergreen contract that has a 5-year notice period. So at any point, MLG&W can say in 5 years, we don't want to be a TVA customer anymore. It just auto renews every year at this point.
Yeah, I just found it curious, the timing, because it was almost like settled. At least to me, I thought it was already signed, but it was almost settled that everyone said, okay, here's the deal, we're going with TVA, and then suddenly, for the first time in nearly its 90-year history, they have this blackout, or rolling blackouts that they've asked all the utilities that they serve, power to. I just thought that was horrible timing.
It is horrible timing, but imagine if the timing had been this summer. And MLG&W was still having bidders on its power supply. The bidding had not closed. And then MLG&W is rating TVA is very reliable. And then there are blackouts. So I think for TVA, the timing could have been worse. At the same time, because Memphis hasn't signed anything, and it just remains on this evergreen rolling contract, the question is still open. And that's a really sort of essential thing to keep in mind as we go forward. It's not clear whether or not that's going to revive, and what's happened these past couple of weeks is going to revive the debate over whether Memphis should leave. But all of the gating criteria, all the things, which is this Memphis contract that's evergreen and can be, essentially a 5-year notice and it's up, that really puts a lot of pressure on TVA. And that's why the vote going against them in mid-December and Memphis not wanting to sign the generational deal was such a big deal for them. Because if Memphis had signed it and the city council had signed off on it, which was a very unlikely thing, Memphis would be in the same situation that Nashville is in, where Nashville can talk about how grumpy they are with TVA. Nashville leaders can do that. But they signed a 20-year deal, the rolling perpetual agreement with TVA. It would take a generation to get out of it. Memphis is not in the same situation.
That is interesting, and that leaves the door open for, I guess, more debate down the line. I also thought it was interesting that, the CEO said something that they're investigating, paraphrasing now, but investigating what exactly caused this whole diction to make sure that there were rolling blackouts. I guess there's no timetable on when they are supposed to have that situated, right? I mean, they just said, hey, we're looking into it.
Yeah, that's essentially it. And TVA, said it a little more formally last week as well. But no, we don't know yet. I would expect sometime in the first half of the year, we have some analysis of this. And it's a really important question because for all of Tennessee and parts of 6 other states, this is the electric grid. And it's really, worrisome when the election provider has to mandate rolling blackouts. And the electric provider has said it was prepared for such extreme events. And as Jeff Lash has quoted in the story, the preparation didn't work. And so you really need to understand, because these events are going to happen again. It's going to be very cold in Nashville and Memphis and Knoxville all at the same time. It's going to happen. It's maybe rare, but it will happen again. And it's going to be very warm in those places this summer, most likely all at the same time. And so that sort of thing is when your peak electric demand can't be met and your generation falls, which is what happened with TVA, and you're trying to import electricity, you could be in this situation again. So you really do need to study it.
It really is interesting, and it's something that is posted on commercialappeal.com. And Sam, before I let you go, I just want to commend you on writing 2 stories that are so relevant to the entire population. It doesn't matter where you live. If you are an MLGW customer, you are very interested in what's happening here. And these questions are something that everybody that has been asking over the last week, 2 weeks, 10 days, what have you, since all this stuff happened. And there's going to be these questions continuing throughout 2023, I would assume. I'll give you the last word here before we let you go.
Well, Andrew, it's great to see you. Happy New Year. And the reason I wanted to talk about these stories today is because the public needs to be talking about infrastructure, not just when it fails. And because, when these events happen, we see an intense spike in interest, and we really care about the electric grid, about the water system. and then everything gets back to function. And then you don't have more serious conversations about it, and the public is less interested. And I think one of the ways for this thing to change is for people to be more aware and more engaged on the issues. And that way their infrastructure, which is what they pay for, all of us pay for every month, is accountable to them.
He is Sam Hardiman with the Commercial Appeal, the City Beat writer. And with Sam, we appreciate all the hard work. Thanks very much. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Zoe says Happy New Year to you.
Want to take you live now to a procession that we're watching here in Brazil. If you are someone that's familiar with soccer or have been in touch with soccer over the last 4, 5, 6 decades, you know the name Pelé. Pelé was a beloved soccer star, not just in Brazil, but across the world, across the globe. Movies made about him. I can remember in the 80s watching the movie Victory about Pelé. What a superstar and what a beloved countryman he was for Brazil, but also an ambassador of the sport all across the world for decades. In fact, when Lionel Messi won the World Cup along with his team and his country, Argentina, Pelé, one of the first people to congratulate him on his victory at the World Cup this year. Just a few weeks ago, Pelé lost his battle with cancer, and on December 29th, he died. He was in his 80s. I believe he was 82. And so this is a procession that is happening after his funeral. He is going to be buried. Now his body is being sent to the burial site. But along with this procession is a procession throughout the city there, Rio de Janeiro, just so the rest of the country can say their final goodbyes, a closure, if you will, for one of the greats in soccer history, certainly one of the great Brazilian players to ever lace up and play soccer. So Pelé dead December 29th, his funeral over, and now he is going to be buried there in Brazil, put to rest as the country says goodbye. There is a study out there that says 57% of Americans have some sort of anxiety or they lose sleep over thinking about their credit score. And we all know that a poor credit score can affect so many aspects of our life these days. It doesn't just mean, you can't get a certain credit card. I mean, we're talking about high interest rates, insurance premiums, the lower likelihood of getting hired for certain jobs, difficulty renting an apartment, and so much more. It's really a concern out there for so many people. They're losing sleep over it. They're affecting their well-being and health. And let's bring in a financial expert to talk more about this. Radhika Duggal is joining us here. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm not losing sleep. I feel like I got a good credit score, but the majority, it's amazing here. The majority of Americans, more than 50%, 57 in this study. Does that surprise you? Why do you think that number is so high, Radhika?
It absolutely surprises me. I have read quite a number of studies over the years around personal finance and credit, and this is the first time I have seen this problem framed as a mental health issue and really, to your point, a mental health crisis. And what I really worry about and what I believe drives this is the fact that people don't have access to credit. And that's a problem that we at Super are laser focused on solving.
So tell me more about that. People don't have access or equity when it comes to credit and improving their credit scores. Tell me a little bit more. Let's dive in.
It's difficult for an everyday American to simply get their foot into the door of the credit system. Our most recent research indicated that 66% of underserved Americans actually have been denied credit. Oftentimes, by the way, that denial came when they need it most, and what it leads to is feelings of extreme financial instability. So if you take feelings of instability, feelings of anxiety, suddenly we're talking about a mental health and an emotional problem rather than just a simple functional problem.
So, Radhika, how do we resolve this problem? Certainly, it looks like, based upon what I'm reading here in this study, it looks like there is a need for fair access to credit and equity building opportunities out there for underserved communities. How do we fix this?
The good news is that there are ways to fix this. Now, I'd offer 3 potential things to do. First, understand the system. Really understand what is a credit score, what drives a credit score. And there's so much literature online that's available to help us do so. The second is understand your own score. Check it frequently, understand what moves it in one direction or another. And the third is try new ways to build your credit. We at Super have just launched a product called Super Cash, and it is essentially a card that acts like a debit card but has the benefits of a credit card. You do not need access, you do not need credit to actually build credit with this card. It comes with no monthly service fee, no credit check, no minimums. And the best part is, I mentioned before, it has the rewards of a credit card. It comes with up to 10% cash back every time you use the card. So there absolutely are solutions to solving this problem if you're trying to build your credit up from scratch.
Fascinating. So we've mentioned a couple of different aspects to this study. 57% of Americans have anxiety or lose sleep over their credit score. What else really of note came out of this new research?
Yeah, there were a couple of things that were really important that came out. Now, first and foremost, 70% of consumers that took this survey said that they experienced financial instability when they were denied credit. 70%. And that same number, also 70%, said, hey, if I could just improve my credit score a little bit, they said a small increase in their credit score or more access to credit would actually enable them to better their lives significantly. What this report does is it really helps us to understand the problem at hand. And then now what we need to do as a community is band together. We need to start talking about this problem. The more we talk about it, the less anxiety as people we're going to feel. But then as business owners and folks working on this problem, we've got to band together to really put forth equitable solutions.
All right, so let's talk about options for those who are typically challenged here with having access to credit and building equity.
Yeah, so that primary option that I mentioned before is a great place to start. Super Cash is a way to get access to credit without having your credit checked. What that means is you don't have to have a high credit score to qualify for the product. With Super Cash, you can actually put a small amount of money on the card and use that money to build up credit. And unlike other cards like it, you do not have to put $500, $600 as a minimum. There are no minimums. You can put $10 or $20 on the card, and each time you use it at the end of the month, we report those transactions and your on-time payment to the credit bureaus so that you're able to build credit.
Okay, good stuff there. Radhika, where can we go for more information?
To learn more, visit super.com/cash.
Want to show you now some damage out of Arkansas hit by some powerful storms. This is the storm system that was in our area in the overnight hours, caused widespread damage and power outages. The storms left some damage here. This is the town of Jesseville. It's about 3 hours away from Memphis. Homes and buildings just flattened. Weather investigators will be out to survey the damage to see if a tornado hit the community. School was also in session. Good thing is, all the children are accounted for, and everyone is safe. All right, Mississippi lawmakers back in session this week. Courtney Ann Jackson from our sister station has a rundown of what you can expect this session.
The first anticipated topic is really a continuation of last session.
I do know that there obviously are still some ongoing debates about tax policy.
The governor and others plan to again push for full elimination of the state income tax. There was even some debate among Republican leaders on the issue last year.
This debate is what you want in our republic. So should we completely eliminate it, or should we stick with what we have? But if we eliminate it, then do we have the money to fund the needs that the government is responsible for funding?
It's a move that House Minority Leader Representative Robert Johnson thinks is inappropriate. He has a different priority.
What I hope to see happen is that we do something long-term for healthcare and hospitals, but at the very least do something short-term to make sure that people have access to healthcare and keep our hospitals open.
That's an issue that has at least caught the attention of both sides of the aisle.
So we have a vested interest in making sure that these community rural hospitals, at least at some level, have the ability to take in patients, to stabilize them, and maybe get them to a larger facility in a larger town or area of the state.
And now that we're living in a post-Roe world, both chambers have started discussing supports for women, children, and families.
And if we don't do it, then we only have ourselves to blame. And look, government is not the answer for everything. It is not. But we can assist and we can set the agenda, and that's what we need to be doing.
Representative Johnson is hoping they'll be able to add TANF reform to that list.
I hope we can integrate some of that. And I've talked to some of the people on both sides that are working on those committees. They're not resistant to some of the things that I have in mind or our caucus has in mind. So there's room for discussion.
Now, about Robert Barnett. He was someone from Arkansas that was charged in the January 6th riot. He's now getting a delay in his trial set for March 9th. This picture was taken in the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office on that day. You're now looking at surveillance video from inside a diner on the night of a machete attack near New York Times Square here. A crowd rushed into the restaurant for cover. Police say the 19-year-old Trevor Bigford attacked several New York police officers with a machete. He was taken to a Manhattan hospital after being shot by one of the officers. He was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of attempted assault as well. Okay, grocery prices likely to soar once again in 2023 thanks to our raging inflation all across the U.S. Food prices expected to cost between 3.5% and 4.5% more than last year when they were the highest we've seen in over 40 years. Mandy Gaither has some tips on how you can save money at the grocery store.
Groceries eating up your monthly budget? Experts say a bit of planning can let you keep more cash in your pocket while still enjoying your favorite items on the menu.
Our food spending is the silent killer of our budget.
Financial counselor Kamiko Love recommends following these 5 steps to reduce spending. Number 1, always start with a list. Before you even head to the grocery store, take inventory of your pantry, fridge, and freezer.
I pick out recipes based on what I already have at home, and I create that list of what I still need to get.
That way you buy only what you need instead of what you're tempted to buy. Number 2, shop from home. Avoid temptations at the grocery store altogether and shop online for grocery pickup or delivery instead. It's easier to delete items from your virtual cart if you're over budget.
But it also allows you to compare pricing very easily because it puts all similar food categories together.
Number 3, don't just check the price. Look at the price per unit. Many times it's cheaper to buy items as a whole instead of buying pre-cut or pre-made products. Number 4, use a loyalty app. Join your grocery store's loyalty programs, follow them on social media, and download their apps to find coupons and other deals. Number 5, buy generic over brand names.
Store brands or generic brands are a lot of the times made in the same facility as the brand names that we gravitate towards.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Okay, let's talk about the first day of school because guess what? School is back in session and there are parents across the Mid-South silently rejoicing, or maybe not so silent. Yay! Kids go back to school, start learning some things, all right? So in Memphis and Shelby County schools, they're talking about some new ideas as they look for a superintendent. They're going to resume next Thursday, the 12th, with these community meetings. At the last meeting, parents and district staff, community members met at Stoughton to share their thoughts on what they want in an ideal superintendent.
Make sure people are not using us as a resume builder. And that's important. That's important. And like we're looking at ourselves, make sure people are not using this job as a resume.
Memphis-Shelby County Schools says it's doing a walkthrough of all their schools and district buildings to make sure that there's not any leftover broken water main pipes and from the damaged that are from water main pipes and water main breaks from last month's winter storm, if I can get that out there. All right, so let's talk about right now resolutions, okay? Because resolutions are a big thing for everybody. We know that. A lot of people focus on diet and health and exercise, but there may be more charitable giving in the new year. In fact, there may be something with regards to fostering or adopting a pet. You can get the reward of saving a life. In fact, there is one way to hit your target here on how to have healthy resolutions in the new year when it comes to your pets.
It's 2023 and you've vowed to be healthier. Now what?
Your pets can really help you do that. I mean, pets, it's been shown that they bring a greater sense of health and well-being to you.
Polly Sizemore with Best Friends Animal Society says pets can help you keep those healthy resolutions. If you want to eat healthier, check with your veterinarian on which foods you can share with your cat or dog.
And carrots and apples are a great one. Maybe a tiny piece of cheese that may not be as healthy, but probably pretty appreciated by the dog.
If moving more in 2023 is your goal, dogs and even some cats can be great companions on a walk and can even hold you accountable.
And once they get used to a walk, they'll hold you to it. Like if you walk at the same time every day, they'll usually start to cue you a few minutes before and say, I'm ready for my walk.
If you'd like to be more social in the new year, being out and about with a pet is a great way to meet others.
I think I met about half of my neighbors while I was walking my dog. And it was so terrific because I think I made friends that I probably wouldn't have otherwise because it's such a great icebreaker.
Pets can also help lower stress in your life.
The joy and unconditional love they bring is de-stressing in and of itself. But if you want to go even a little bit further, you can do things like meditation with your pet or maybe even yoga.
For Health Minute, I'm Andy Gaither.
Okay, enough with Mandy Gaither, all right? One of the most common New Year's resolutions is to get your finances under control and wipe out that debt. So many people want that, right? All of us want to have a better money situation going into 2023. We all do, especially with our raging inflation. The best way to do that is to have a plan and then stick to it throughout the year. So let me explain now on my Best Life report on how to stay on target with your money goals in 2023. Take a look at this. This is a good one.
It's time to figure out ways not to drop the ball on your financial goals in the new year. And one of the quickest ways to start is to take a look at what happened in 2022 and see if you can make any improvements by negotiating better rates with companies you already deal with.
Look at your auto insurance, see if you can shop it around and save money. Look at your homeowners. Start saving money annually. Look at all of your, not only your credit card statements and your debit card statements, see what you could scale out.
Next, plan a daily 5-minute money check-in. Every morning, check your bank and your credit card apps to see how you're spending. It will make you more aware of your daily expenses and purchases. Researchers also say to be sure to pay yourself first. Set up a savings plan and make sure each time your paycheck is deposited, money is automatically put into your 401k or other savings plans. Another trick, open multiple online savings accounts. You can deposit money each month into specific accounts like entertainment, home improvement, vacation, and children. Reward yourself with micro-saving goals that encourage you to reward yourself monetarily for achieving other life goals. Since most of us don't carry cash, you can use the app Tip Yourself. Every time you go to the gym, give yourself $2. Finish a difficult task, add $5. Use this money to do or buy something for yourself.
One last suggestion from researchers: set very specific money goals. For example, don't just say you want to save more money in 2023. Set a money goal like you want to save $3,000 by the summer, and then break down that goal to saving $200 a month. That way you'll be able to feel mentally like you're making headway. With Ways to Live Your Best Life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5. We've been talking a lot about how Americans feel about their financial security. You know, we got sky-high inflation. We got the holiday season. People trying to name and get every gift on their list this time of year. Stress is out of control. People look at social media. They want to try and compete with everybody's happy moments on social media. It drives people nuts. I'm not talking about myself, okay? Just kidding. But anyway, what we're trying to do now is trying to figure out how Americans feel about their financial security and ways to make sure there is that security moving forward. That's why we have Chelsea Moore, Director of Wealth Management Solutions at Country Financial, joining us on the digital desk. Chelsea, let's talk about the financial security and managing financial goals during the holiday season. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about some of those goals, the financial goals on their own. How can people manage that?
Well, Americans have said that they're comfortable managing those more tangible short-term goals like a budget. Where they're seeking help is they want help on those longer-term or complicated goals, things like retirement planning, help with their investments, navigating this complex economic situation that we're in today.
What's your advice for prioritizing financial goals and knowing which ones to consider in 2023?
The first step in prioritizing the goals is making sure that you're writing them down. You're talking to your household, whether that's a spouse or your children, about what those goals are and making sure you've got alignment within your household on where you are going. From there, we suggest taking those goals and breaking them down into smaller, more manageable micro goals, and then beginning to prioritize. Some of the more foundational goals we suggest that you consider having is an emergency fund, proper insurance protection for your assets, a debt repayment plan, and utilizing a financial advisor for trusted guidance.
What do you see are the biggest mistakes people make with money?
Now at the holiday season, one mistake that we often see is what we call the mindless spending trap. Like you had mentioned, falling victim to the social media pressures or even all of those ads that we may see on social media that seem to know, everything that we want and desire, or even just picking up a few extra things at the checkout lane, $1 here, $5 there, $8 there really adds up over time if you haven't budgeted for it. The other common mistake that we see is just general not feeling comfortable talking to your family about money. Now, we certainly don't mean you need to go and tell everybody how much is in your checking account. What we're talking about is, do you have a will? Where is your trust documents? Do you have life insurance, and where are those documents? And what financial institutions are you utilizing? If your family is prepared and has access to that information, it will much better prepare them for any unexpected loss.
I've been working with a financial advisor for about 20 years or so. I love it. It's great. It kind of helps me with worries about investments and all that kind of thing because they spend their whole time doing this. Can we talk more about some of the other benefits that people might see with a financial advisor and how much money people might need in order to start working with a financial advisor? That's always a good question.
Similar to you, what we see based on our survey is those working with a financial advisor are happier and feel more confident in their goals. The reason for that is they value that expert advice, that access to holistic or big picture financial planning, and just having a go-to person to ask those financial questions to, and finally having financial protection for their family.
Is there anything else you want to mention, Chelsea? We've covered on a little bit of things, but is there like a bullet point list you want to get to of like maybe some top 3 things people should watch this holiday season going into 2023?
It's important to have a plan and make sure that that plan can weather economic conditions. So we want to make sure that plan is recession-proof. And working with a qualified financial advisor is going to enable you to be able to do that. And then not being afraid to talk to your family about money and those long-term financial goals.
And where can people go for more information? I know we've talked a lot of different tips and tricks and that sort of thing.
We've got a lot of great resources at www.countryfinancial.com.
Okay, Chelsea Moore, Director of Wealth Management Solutions at Country Financial. We appreciate the advice this holiday season. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
I want to show you something here real quick. This is the women's basketball game that's taking place today. They're playing East Carolina. You can watch the game for free. Head women's basketball coach Katrina Merriweather paid for all the tickets of today's game, so anyone can go support the team. It's at 7 o'clock tonight. It's inside the Elma Roan Fieldhouse. 4 lucky fans will be randomly drawn to shoot a three-point shot for $2,000. No purchase necessary to take the shots. You just have to be over the age of 18. Well, I'm sure you probably have seen right now the video of Ja Morant giving his signature shoes, autographing them to a particular fan on the sidelines. And it is something that lit the basketball world on fire. It was everywhere across the country on SportsCenter, etc. Action News 5's Taylor Tucker shows us the sweet gesture and hear from Ja himself about why he did that.
Jones in.
Now that might be nice, but it wasn't Ja's high-flying show performance on the court that won him what I would call Play of the Week.
Well done, Ja Morant.
Well done indeed.
Okay.
Right after he finished his post-game interview, Ja took off his Ja 1 Nike kicks and found a young fan with a sign that said, "Ready to jam out in my Ja 1s, summer 2023. Ja signed his game-worn shoes and gave them to the young fan. Ja also took pictures with a kid and his mom, making the memory of a lifetime and a forever fan.
The great thing to see, leaves you speechless, when you see, somebody, that big of a fan of you to, bust out and cry. And then it was even, more crazy, to see his mom crying as well. I know, that touch, both of their hearts, and, it's something they'll never forget.
Right now, Ja is hosting Ja's 12 Days of Christmas campaign. Fans should tell Ja why they deserve to be one of the first to receive his new Nike signature shoes. On January 12th, he'll pick 12 fans to send a pair to this spring. Luckily for 9-year-old Xander Carr, he's already ready to jam out in his Ja 1s.
I read the sign, and, from then on, I knew, who was getting a pair of shoes. And you can tell how much he wanted it and loved it. So.
In Memphis, Taylor Tucker, Action News 5.
Okay, I want to show you this. This is a live picture from Cape Canaveral, Florida. SpaceX first launch of the year. This is the Falcon 9 rocket that you see at the center of your screen there. It's interesting. This is the first launch of the year, and it's going to haul on board of this Falcon 9 rocket 114 small satellites into orbit for operators in 23 different countries. So liftoff is set to begin at any moment here. It's actually expected to begin in a matter of seconds because it's scheduled for 8:56, and there it is, lifting off live on the Action News 5 digital desk. This is the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. Will return to Cape Canaveral for landing in about 8.5 minutes. But how about that? The live rocket launch, as you can see there on the digital desk. Again, this is from SpaceX. This is going to launch 114 small satellites into orbit for operators in 23 different countries. And as I mentioned, they're going to launch these satellites, and then 8.5 minutes later, this rocket is going to come back down to Earth. So you can see a picture of Cape Canaveral and Florida there where the launching pad was, but that is the Falcon 9 rocket launching off into space, the first launch of 2023. All right, from Falcons and launching the SpaceX rocket to another superstar that's in our space, our orbit, and that's Talisa Franklin. She's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Happy New Year to my friend Talisa. How are you?
I am wonderful. Happy New Year to you and everybody that's watching us on this morning.
So tell me how the New Year's been for you right now, Talisa. Pretty good?
Yes, amazing. You know, I have found it to be true. Many didn't make it, but we were one of the ones that did. And so we made it to 2023, and I'm just excited about it. So I have no complaints. All I know that I'm excited to be on this side of the ground.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I see that you are not wasting time when it comes to 2023, Talisa. You got things cooking already, and I know one of the big resolutions out there, you and I both know, finances, getting out of debt, making sure your money will help you in 2023. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So, you know, I am a believer. You know, many people call me, maybe I'm very frugal, I'm very cheap. They say, but I just understand that money, as my grandma would say, didn't grow on trees, right? It may be made out of trees, but it didn't grow on trees. So you have to be very wise with your finances. And so I was super excited about Pleasant Green Church reaching out to me and say, Talisa, we really want to do something to be a blessing to this community of the North Memphis community and our church. And I was like, Pastor Phillips, yes, I'm excited to come. So I am going to be facilitating for this amazing church, Pleasant Green Church in Memphis, of faith and finances. Because truly in this thing of life, you got to have faith with your finances and knowing when to buy, when not to buy, what to do, how to do it, and just know where you are financially. And so I'm excited to do a two-time every Saturday, the last 2 Saturdays of January, a free workshop. It's not going to cost people anything, Andrew. They can come. They got to register, though. Why? Because I even have a takeaway that I need people to use it to make sure they are accountable in this season so they can see how their finances and their faith has went up in 2023. And so we want everybody to go ahead and register at the pleasantgreenchurchmemphis.org. It is absolutely free. Yeah, you get twice 2 workshops for absolutely free to help you better your finances. But we need you to register so I'll know how many accountability books that I need to bring for them. And it's no fee. When I say no fee at all, for people to come out and get the knowledge they need, get the information. You know, I'm very unapologetic. I grew up in a home that we were truly the underprivileged and underserved. And so there was people in my life that pulled me to a side and helped me with my finances, and even helped me how to shift my faith in God with a different level that I never imagined I could be with God at this point in my life. And so I want to share some of those best practices, and then some of my learned best practices, and some of my best practices I have learned to make sure that people understand how to exercise your faith and your finances together. Yes.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. We can all, even if you think that you have a good grasp of finances, it's always good to hear other people's experiences, their successes, learn from their failures. Just try to improve yourself. Self-improvement, right? That's what we all want in 2023.
Yes. You know, many people made new resolutions to lose weight, to do this. Can you make the resolution of life that you're going to get your finances in order? Because we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we do know who holds tomorrow, right? But it's important that we get that information that we need so that we can get our finances where God wants them to be.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. That's a great event that's coming up. I also want to ask you about your upcoming show. It sounds like you got some interesting guests.
Yes, you know, 2023, we'll have a new Memphis mayor. And I was like, okay, Talisa, how do you start off this year? You started off with asking all of these candidates, because, you know, we got a plethora of candidates that is running for Memphis mayor. And so I got a few of them that I pulled out, and there will be more that we're talking. I got some really great questions that I'm asking them, the hard questions, because we need to make sure that we pick the mayor that can continue just like our current mayor. I love him, Mayor Jim Strickland. We need somebody that can pick up that torch and keep us moving forward in Memphis. We need somebody that's for the people in Memphis. And so I had so many people, mayoral candidates this week, that's going to share why they should be the next Memphis mayor. And hey, we just going to ask the questions and let the people decide for themselves.
And so that is something that's happening the 2nd through the 6th. So that is this week.
This week, yeah. This week we had, like yesterday, We had Van Turner. Today we have Paul Young. So we have different ones every single day for 45 minutes to an hour conversation. I'm hitting them with the questions because y'all know I love to talk, right? And I really want to make sure these people have the community in mind when you come down to Memphis. And so we have all of these candidates that's sharing, and we got another one coming up with some of the other candidates that is running too, because we really want to hear for real what their heart is. Why do they really want to be Memphis mayor? And I think in this season, as we're going into election seasons, we got to start voting for people just because we like them. We need to vote for them to make sure they are the change agents that we want to see right here in our city. We got to make these people accountable. I mean, accountable on all ways. They got to be accountable to help us get where we know that we're supposed to be. We're moving Memphis forward.
Absolutely. The community, the culture, the conversation, WAVN, the trends. Talisa Franklin, the one and only. Happy New Year to my friend. We love you so much. And good luck and much success to you and all your staff in 2023.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you.
Good morning. Very active here across the Mid-South. It's all part of a cold front. We've been seeing its impact since yesterday, and it is continuing this morning. Widespread and some heavy rain. We've even had a couple of storm warnings across the Mid-South this morning, and that will continue to be the case over the next several hours. Now, in addition to warnings, we also have a tornado watch that is in effect. Now, at this point, Shelby County has been dropped from that, but as of 7:30 this morning, we do have portions of West Tennessee, Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy counties that are still included in that, all of North Mississippi as well. That tornado watch is going to go through 11 o'clock this morning. And again, a watch means that it can happen. But as far as our storm threats are concerned, it really is going to be heavy rain that continues to be the big issue. We've had reports of flooding across the Mid-South. We've even seen interstates closed down because of flooding and damaging wind gusts too. But yes, we are going to watch out for rotation as we are heading throughout the day today, or at least throughout this morning too. So we've got several flood advisories and warnings that are in effect across the Mid-South, and these are actually individual warnings, but they're all kind of connecting and making one large one here. So again, there is ongoing flooding concerns across the Mid-South as that system tracks towards the east. So by 10 o'clock this morning, we should see the leading edge of this front making its way out of Lafayette County over towards Ashland, over towards Corinth too. We're still going to have some widespread rain across West Tennessee, North Mississippi, but eastern Arkansas starting to dry out by 10 o'clock this morning. And then by lunchtime, we'll see that drier air continue to make its way into West Tennessee. I think by 11 o'clock or noon, we should start seeing the leading edge of this storm system and the strongest rain and the strongest winds and heaviest rain moving out of the area. But we're still not going to be quite done with the rain even as we're heading throughout the afternoon and evening. At least some of us, I do think, could see additional storm development, mainly across North Mississippi, maybe eastern portions of West Tennessee as we're heading into late this evening and tonight. Otherwise, we will see that drier air move in by this afternoon for most locations. But very heavy rainfall as we are heading throughout the day today. We could see an additional half an inch to an inch of rain across portions of the Mid-South as that system rolls through. There could even be some locally higher amounts. So the flooding that we're already experiencing this morning, well, it very well could be exaggerated as we're heading throughout the afternoon. And winds are also going to be pretty gusty and breezy today. Winds out of the south giving us some warm air. We've got these winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour this morning, and we're going to see that continue to be the case even as we're heading throughout the afternoon. They'll start to become much more calm as we're heading into this evening with those wind gusts in the teens, and then eventually we should see a calm wind as we are heading into the overnight hours tonight. As mentioned, it still is going to be warm today though with those southerly winds. Highs near 70 degrees across portions of West Tennessee. 68 in Ripley, 68 in Brownsville. We've got 69 in Selmer with 70 degrees here in Memphis. We'll see some low 70s in North Mississippi with 71 in Marks, 70 in Clarksdale. We've got 69 in Tunica, 70 in Forest City with 68 degrees in Blytheville. So unseasonably warm weather continues for today, but once we get this system out of here, drier air moves in and our temperatures will also be cooler, but overall seasonable, meaning right where they should be for this time of year. After all, it is the beginning of January and 70 degrees is unseasonably warm. 57 as we're heading into tomorrow. Cooler after that with highs near 50 on Thursday, 52 on Friday. Notice those overnight lows will be a little chilly too with those into the 30s, but we rebound to the 40s for lows as we head into the weekend and mid and upper 50s for highs on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, we could see a couple of isolated showers. Your weekend doesn't look like a total washout, but something that we'll continue to monitor as we are heading throughout the rest of this week.
We've been talking a lot about how Americans feel about their financial security. There is a new study out there that really kind of shows the benefits of walking. No surprise, 10,000 steps a day. So many people have those trackers. They try to get those 10,000 steps a day. It can reduce the risk of cancer, according to this new study, heart disease and early death. And to add to that, lowering the risk of dementia by 50%. And if you can't make 10,000 steps, walking just less than half of that lowers the risk of dementia by 25%. Amazing stuff from this new study out there. Let's bring in Dr. Alicia Jones to explain more of the benefits of walking. Dr. Jones, great to see you again. Let's talk about this because we have this new study out here, and we always hear, you know, okay, you got to get 10,000 steps a day and all this stuff. But you don't even need to get 10,000 steps in order to really kind of benefit from walking, right?
Right, that's true. And that's exactly what, this study just was able to prove, even like, as you said, getting even less than half of that can be proved to be quite beneficial for people.
So let's talk about some of the common benefits.
Mm-hmm. So some of them you touched on, but overall, walking is going to be good just for general health, but it can help lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, lower cholesterol. It can certainly help with an energy boost or even help people sleep better at night.
My wife and I, we've seen something where if you walk after dinner, you just walk for a little bit after dinner, maybe 30 minutes or so, it dramatically reduces blood sugar levels and does a number on all kinds of health benefits.
Absolutely.
What do you recommend that to your patients, that you just kind of walk 30 minutes a day at least?
I do. And, I even say, especially for those that have not been physically active for a very long time, you can start out with half of that or start out with 20 minutes. And it doesn't have to be, at this race-like pace. You want to do something that, yes, is going to be able to get the blood flowing, get your heart pumping, but you want to be able to sustain that, at a safe pace. For an extended period of time. And you're going to just have to work your way up to being able to go for 30 minutes or go for an hour or an hour and a half, depending on what the goal is.
Something I found interesting, Dr. Jones, about this study was talking about how walking influences the risk of dementia. Can you comment a little bit about that? Because dementia is something that a lot of older people unfortunately come down with, and a lot of times it'll turn into Alzheimer's, and it's just a mess.
Right. So, dementia is an illness that can affect, right now it affects over 55 million people worldwide, but, dementia is this umbrella term, right? Kind of similar to heart disease. Alzheimer's disease is what falls underneath that umbrella. It's the leading cause of dementia. And what this study, found was just that, with walking, you can certainly reduce your risk of developing dementia. And it doesn't have to be long amounts of walking. It doesn't have to be, this strenuous amount of walking, but it's something that, is easily obtainable, something that's easily obtainable for people to do. And they found that it was able to, reduce their risk by 50% if they were able to keep it up for, I believe it said about 7 years.
That's incredible. And, that's one of my worries. I mean, my dad has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and so we're, my family's taking care of him. And so, I've been reading a ton about that disease and anything that can help brain and cognitive functions, I'm all for. And it just sounds like, if you take care of yourself and you just keep moving, no matter what it is, even if it's just walking, is so beneficial. And it looks like it's even more beneficial. Well, I guess women are more common to come down with dementia, so it would help them more, right?
Right. Yes. No, dementia is something that affects women more so than it does men. But yes, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Just get up and start moving. That's going to be the number one thing that you can do. But, in addition to moving, you also have to remember, okay, there's a lifestyle in terms of, dietary and social habits that go along with that. So you want to make sure that you're eating the right foods, you're getting enough sleep. In terms of alcohol consumption, there's moderate to minimal alcohol consumption, and of course, no smoking. All of those things coupled together with walking, will significantly reduce the risk of developing dementia.
What are some of the other ways that we can keep our brain sharp? Because, again, a lot of people, worried about, those kind of cognitive functions.
Mm-hmm. I often encourage a lot of my patients to get into stimulating brain games. Some of them like to do Sudokus. And it was one of the puzzles that my grandmother loved to do was those type of puzzles, but crossword puzzles, any type of brain stimulation that's going to cause you that requires problem solving or puzzle solving. Any of those things are going to be good to do. But just, social interaction is also good for your mental health as well. So getting involved with different organizations or community groups or just volunteering, that can be quite helpful.
So when I'm on my phone, sometimes, we kind of get bored. We'll play a game or whatever, and I'll get these advertisements for these games. Oh, improve your brain activity. Be a genius if you download this game right now. And I'm like, is this for real? I mean, are there certain games that we can play on our phone that actually will help our cognitive function, or is this just, a scam?
No, I mean, some of it, of course, yes, I'm sure you'd have to take with a grain of salt. But, if you get, into the App Store, for example, and you are searching for puzzle games or brain stimulating games, I mean, you can certainly look at the reviews of what was, written about that particular app or that particular game. And that may help kind of better guide your decision making in terms of which one you decide to add onto your phone.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, be the next Einstein, download this game. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to mention with regards to this new study, walking benefits and cognitive function, dementia, that sort of thing?
I just want to, again, reiterate that, you don't have to start at, okay, today I'm going to get out, I'm going to walk 10,000 steps. I mean, yes, that's the ultimate goal essentially, but, just start off where you can and work your way up. And there's nothing wrong with taking your time to work your way up. I also encourage my patients, if you don't feel that it's, a safe place to walk because it's a busy area where you're living, then you can always go into the mall and walk around in the mall for an extended period of time, and that's still getting steps in. That still counts. You just want to make sure that hopefully, if you're able to, you can track your steps so you know how many that you're taking in a day, but that you're most importantly getting your heart rate up and you're feeling like you're working towards that goal.
Walking inside a mall sounds really good on a day where there's triple-digit heat today.
That's also true.
Yeah, that sounds great. Dr. Alicia Jones, always enjoy our conversations. Thanks for keeping it real with us and explaining everything. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
It is time for a fun segment. How about knowing more about dating with confidence? I mean, I think we could all probably use some advice when it comes to this topic. So joining me now is love coach and also psychotherapist Hillary Silver. Hillary, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing really good. I've been looking forward to this interview because I think a lot of people can benefit from this. So I guess the first thing I really want to dive into is how do you just find and attract the right people? Because a lot of times I think people are thinking, why am I a magnet for people that aren't going to treat me right? So what advice do you have?
Well, it always starts with how can you attract the right person if you don't even know who that is? And I find that a lot of people aren't really clear what it is that they're looking for in a partner. So when they're dating, they are attracting the wrong kinds. And to start recognizing who is the right person for you, you have to actually know yourself really well and to get really clear. What's important to me in a partner? What do I value? What are the traits and the characteristics in somebody that I have to have? That's where it starts first. And so your values, and I say, what do you admire and require? So what do you admire in somebody? What do you like to be around? And what are your requirements? And those are really criteria that you have to get clear on.
You know, one thing I'm wondering, in this day and age, does it seem like most people are relying on dating apps to meet people? Are you seeing that more and more, obviously?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's a great tool as long as you know how to use it, really. You have to be smart.
What kind of tips do you have for dating apps? Are there any kind of like go-tos that you say, this is going to help you out here?
Well, they're all different and they all have a different kind of personality, I would say. But they all do have one thing in common, which is the profile. And I think the profile is really important. A lot of people kind of do this casting a wide net and they think that that's better. They want to attract as many as possible. And I always tell my clients, you want to be really specific about who you are and what you're looking for, because being narrow is way better. When you appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one. So, I mean, you don't want people knocking on your door who aren't a good fit for you. So you might as well just be really narrow and really clear what you're looking for.
That's really good advice, because I think a lot of times when people get on those sites, they do cast a wide net. I'm lucky I actually did meet my boyfriend on a dating app, and it's been really great. But yeah, obviously I want to get back, and National Singles Day is coming up in September, and so we want to get back to those that are still trying to find that person. What do you think is the number one thing that is causing relationships not to move past maybe the first few dates?
Well, sometimes it's obvious, right? You'll meet somebody and there's just no chemistry, or it's just clearly not a match. So that's kind of obvious. So I won't even really talk about that. What I call the one date wonder is when you go on a first date with somebody and it seems great. You're having fun. It feels like there's a connection. And then you go home and you're like, oh my God, that was the best date ever. And then you never hear from the person again, leaving you wondering what you did wrong or what did you say. That's the one date wonder. And the way I explain this, or maybe the 2-date or the 3-date wonder, is that sometimes it seems on the outside that you're smart and successful and accomplished and all these wonderful things, and you are. But if there's a disconnect between how you really feel about yourself on the inside, you are oozing or leaking an energy that I call lack. It's a lack energy. And this happens with the best and the brightest among all of us and for all of us. And that is that you go into this date with somebody wanting them to like you, wanting them to pick you, wanting them to approve of you. And that comes from a place of lack, and it'll kill any vibe. And so that's why the majority of the work that I do with my clients in the Ready for Love program is all about that inner work, because how you're presenting yourself, your presence, is so important. It's not really what you're saying, it's how you're saying it and how you're being on these dates. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And so when you're working with people and they've maybe gone on a few dates, are there things that are red flags that maybe you should look for to say, hey, maybe I need to take a step back, like someone maybe just coming on so strong, so fast? I mean, what are the red flags that you usually say, watch out for this?
Well, that's a good one that you just said. When somebody's coming on too strong, too fast, you have to wonder, are they interested in me? Or do they just want someone? Because that doesn't really feel genuine or authentic, right? Red flags, there's so many of them for men and for women. And I just always tell everyone, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right. And it doesn't matter if there's evidence or anything like that. If it doesn't feel right, it just doesn't feel right. And you just have to trust your intuition.
Trust your gut. It usually does not lie to you. I know that there's one that I think this topic's going to be interesting, but maybe 3 blind spots where you could be sabotaging your chance at love. What are those? Because people probably have no idea about this, obviously.
Yeah, I love talking about blind spots. And a blind spot obviously is when you can't see something that's a barrier or an obstacle or a problem, so you can't avoid it and you probably keep doing it. And they are really the most counterintuitive, because the first one that I always talk about is fear of intimacy. We want love, we want connection, we want closeness more than anything, but intimacy is really scary. Letting someone in to your inner world and to see who you really are. And we put ourselves at risk. Being vulnerable means that we are opening ourselves up to being hurt. And so a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, being judged, making a mistake, betrayal, all of that. So a fear of intimacy is there for all of us because we've all been hurt along the way in our lives. And so to open ourselves up and to really let someone in is really, really challenging and scary. And it's a blind spot because people don't realize that it's there. So there's a lot of sabotage that can happen because of that. And then my other favorite blind spot that I love to talk about is a mindset block. Think about it, like an athlete doesn't sign up for the Olympics thinking of all the reasons why they won't win. And so many people are dating thinking things like all the good guys are taken, or women only want me for my money, or, things like that. There's so many of them. And the truth is you get what you expect. And so when you're focusing on what you don't want, or you're thinking these things that are negative that are going to happen to you, that is what will happen. So it's just really important to focus on what it is that you want and recognize any of these like negative beliefs or cynicism that you might have based on past experiences and fear.
I've heard one just where people go in and they're just like, man, I was surprised that you even wanted to go on a date with me. And in a sense, that's almost kind of one of these sabotages where you're going in already putting the ball in their court that maybe they're getting the short end of the deal. I mean, do you agree with me on that?
Oh, yeah, that's not sexy. Who wants to go out with somebody who doesn't have confidence in themselves or doesn't feel deserving or worthy of being picked, so to speak? So it's really important to know your worth, know your value, feel good about that, and expect the best. Knowing that your person is out there and focusing on that and that alone, you will attract them wherever you go.
So everybody wants to make that connection. They want to find their person. What are some dating ideas to maybe help build a strong connection?
Well, so I love telling my clients to go on dates that are active because it's so much more fun and enjoyable and authentic, actually, to do things together where you're showing who you are rather than just telling who you are. My first date with my husband was rock climbing, and I wouldn't tell everybody to do that because you're out in the woods and you don't know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing when you're rock climbing, that can be dangerous. But things like going to a concert where you're just having fun and you're not being forced to just talk. You want to see if you have companionship, if you're playful with each other, and can you be friends? And while you're doing those things like going for a walk or, I don't know, karaoke, if you're so bold to do something like that, there's a lot of playfulness and a lot of flirting that can happen in that. It's less intense. It's just more fun and enjoyable. So dates that are all about showing, not telling, and being active, I think, are really good dates.
I think that's good advice because a lot of times people are just like, I just don't know, and what's gonna be the best thing and that sort of thing. But is there anything else that you want to hit on that maybe we missed? Maybe it's the biggest mistakes people make, or anything that you feel like we didn't cover that you want to hit on before we let you go?
I think that you did a great job asking really important questions. And I think it's just really important that we all take responsibility for being the common denominator in our relationships in our past, and to really look in the mirror, because what we're experiencing in our relationships is a mirror for what's going on inside of us. And a lot of people don't think about it that way, but we're all the common denominator. So it's really important to have a look at how am I creating this? If it's not working the way I want it to, what am I doing? How am I creating this? And always, be willing to look in the mirror. And if it means that you need a coach or a mentor of some kind, get it, because my clients, we have a 92% success rate with my program, because that is a huge piece of what we're doing, is helping people see how they're creating what it is that they don't want instead of creating what they do want. And it's just those blind spots that get in the way.
That is awesome. Well, Hillary, I've had so much fun with this conversation. I've enjoyed it, and you have a great morning, all right?
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it.
Good morning. Okay, the death of 43-year-old Gangster Boo, rapper whose name is Lola Mitchell, still under investigation this morning. And there have been so many artists that are paying tribute to many who call her the Queen of Memphis. Missy Elliott tweeting, "Rest peacefully, Gangster Boo." Fellow rapper Gorilla posted a caption, "Queen of Memphis forever." Memphis DJ Superman spoke highly of her. Take a listen.
Broke barriers in the gender specific of a woman. You know, she gave countless women within the South and beyond a blueprint to retool and rework themselves. On the East Coast at that time, you know, you had Lil Kim, Foxy Brown, whatever like that. Well, the South, we had Gangsta Boo wearing the crown.
Memphis police say autopsy results are still pending in this case. Consumer alert affecting thousands of Mid-Southerners. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee no longer accepted at Methodist Le Bonheur Hospital facilities. So this comes more than a month of failed negotiations between the insurance company and the hospital network. They say that they want lower rates for their customers, but Methodist says the rate cuts being asked of them are unreasonable. The insurance company says the rates customers paid at Methodist were significantly higher than other hospital facilities. Methodist said the higher rates are because of staff shortages and supply chain disruptions. The change now affects services at Methodist Le Bonheur facilities. You can find that full list on our website. We're told that Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare Physician Group and emergency care services are still considered in network. Check first with your physician and your insurance to confirm. About half of all Americans say at least one New Year's resolution, set at least one New Year's resolution, and only 8% of Americans keep their resolution all year long. If you got less than stellar success rates, I got some ways that you can perhaps keep them throughout 2023. Take a look.
We normally do the food diet thing, and it usually lasts about a month.
I always keep my goal. I'm usually good for the first 2 months of the year, and then it fades off.
3, 2, 1, Happy New Year!
Maybe you plan to ring in 2023 with a new resolve to quit smoking, lose weight, exercise more, not sweat the small stuff. How can you ensure that your determination now sticks around past Valentine's Day?
Make a goal, long-term or short-term. Kind of get prepared for it.
On average, it takes more than 2 months before a new behavior becomes automatic, 66 days to be exact. So here's how to make those New Year's resolutions stick. First, prepare in advance. Set your goals early. Next, take small steps. When you get a better feel of what's manageable for you, you can gradually increase the difficulty and commitment. Be consistent. Aim to set aside exactly the same time every day for working towards your goal, and focus on one resolution at a time. Also, try to partner with someone. The American Society of Training found that people are 65% likely to meet a goal after committing to another person. And most importantly, if you fail, keep going. Reset, restart, and recommit to reaching your goals in 2023.
Research says if you keep your mind in place, the rest of you will show up. So keep nudging yourself in the same direction you'd like to go in 2023. Good luck to all of you. We have a lot of severe weather in across the Mid-South. Moving out of the area, thankfully. Meteorologist Aaron Thomas has this update.
Good morning. Very active here across the Mid-South. It's all part of a cold front. We've been seeing its impact since yesterday, and it is continuing this morning. Widespread and some heavy rain. We've even had a couple of storm warnings across the Mid-South this morning, and that will continue to be the case over the next several hours. Now, in addition to warnings, we also have a tornado watch that is in effect. Now, at this point, Shelby County has been dropped from that, but as of 7:30 this morning, we do have portions of West Tennessee, Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy counties that are still included in that, all of North Mississippi as well. That tornado watch is going to go through 11 o'clock this morning, and again, a watch means that it can happen. But as far as our storm threats are concerned, it really is going to be heavy rain that continues to be the big issue. We've had reports of flooding across the Mid-South. We've even seen interstates closed down because of flooding and damaging wind gusts too. But yes, we are going to watch out for rotation as we are heading throughout the day today, or at least throughout this morning too. So we've got several flood advisories and warnings that are in effect across the Mid-South, and these are actually individual warnings, but they're all kind of connecting and making one large one here. So again, there is ongoing flooding concerns across the Mid-South as that system tracks towards the east. So by 9-10 o'clock this morning, we should see the leading edge of this front making its way out of Lafayette County over towards Ashland, over towards Corinth too. We're still going to have some widespread rain across West Tennessee, North Mississippi, but eastern Arkansas starting to dry out by 9-10 o'clock this morning. And then by lunchtime, we'll see that drier air continue to make its way into West Tennessee. I think by 11 o'clock or noon, we should start seeing the leading edge of this storm system and the strongest rain and the strongest winds and heaviest rain moving out of the area. But we're still not going to be quite done with the rain, even as we're heading throughout the afternoon and evening. At least some of us, I do think, could see additional storm development, mainly across North Mississippi, maybe eastern portions of West Tennessee as we're heading into late this evening and tonight. Otherwise, we will see that drier air move in by this afternoon for most locations. But very heavy rainfall as we are heading throughout the day today. We could see an additional half an inch to an inch of rain across portions of the Mid-South as that system rolls through. There could even be some locally higher amounts. So the flooding that we're already experiencing this morning, well, it very well could be exaggerated as we're heading throughout the afternoon. And winds are also going to be pretty gusty and breezy today. Winds out of the south giving us some warm air. We've got these winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour this morning, and we're going to see that continue to be the case even as we're heading throughout the afternoon. They'll start to become much more calm as we're heading into this evening with those wind gusts in the teens, and then eventually we should see a calm wind as we are heading into the overnight hours tonight. As mentioned, it still is going to be warm today though with those southerly winds. Highs near 70 degrees across portions of West Tennessee, 68 in Ripley, 68 in Brownsville. We've got 69 in Selmer with 70 degrees here in Memphis. We'll see some low 70s in North Mississippi with 71 in Marks, 70 in Clarksdale. We've got 69 in Tunica, 70 in Forest City with 68 degrees in Blytheville. So unseasonably warm weather continues for today, but once we get this system out of here, drier air moves in and our temperatures will also be cooler, but overall seasonable, meaning right where they should be for this time of year. After all, it is the beginning of January and 70 degrees is unseasonably warm. 57 as we're heading into tomorrow, cooler after that with highs near 50 on Thursday, 52 on Friday. Notice those overnight lows will be a little chilly too with those into the 30s, but we rebound to the 40s for lows as we head into the weekend and mid and upper 50s for highs on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, we could see a couple of isolated showers. Your weekend doesn't look like a total washout, but something that we'll continue to monitor as we are heading throughout the rest of this week.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. As families gather for the holidays, it's an ideal time to talk about how best to care for your loved ones and how to make their home comfortable and safe for years to come. It's an interesting topic, especially during this holiday season. Let's bring in two people who know it well. Home renovation expert
put it in
Todd
your
Pennington
folder.
And AARP's family and caregiving expert Amy Goyer. They're joining us to talk about the top home improvement ideas for older Americans and how to assess your loved one's need this holiday season. Good morning. How are you two?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
To be here.
Appreciate you being here. So let's talk about how you begin this conversation, because it can be kind of tough at any time of year, especially during the holiday season. Amy, we'll begin with you.
Yes, you know, I always say it's important to talk early and often because you want to talk about things when you're not in the middle of a crisis. Nobody can make decisions when you're in that. And also because your loved one's wishes may change over time. You know, that's why it's important to revisit it often. You know, what you talked about the holidays. The holidays might be a really good time to observe what's going on in your loved one's life. Are they safe in the home? What are their needs? What do they need some support with? And maybe have that conversation, or at least let's say you're talking about your aging parent. Maybe you're going to have that conversation with your siblings who are together for the holidays. As you do this, think about, you know, if you want to have that conversation, who needs to be a part of that conversation? You know, my grandmother used to, my uncle was the person who she listened to on certain things. And so he always needed to be a part of that conversation. Maybe it's the lawyer or the doctor or somebody that, you know, they feel comfortable with. And really talk to them about what the options are. What are the solutions? You know, if we want you to stop driving, here's what how you're going to get around. If we think that you're having trouble with the stairs, here's what we're going to propose on how we're going to adjust that. We're going to get a stair lift, or we're going to move your bedroom down to the first floor. So have some really practical and solid solutions for them. And then, you know, the other thing is to make sure that you approach this in a mode of love and concern. We're all in this together. Yeah. We all have the same goal. We want our loved ones to be as independent as possible for as long as possible. And, you know, you're not here to tell them what to do. Use I statements. Don't say, you shouldn't be doing this. Ty's experienced this with his mom.
Well, yeah, parents don't really like their offspring to tell them what they should be doing. So I think having the conversation was like, we've noticed that, you know, you're struggling with this. If we did this, would it make things a lot easier? And I think in the long run, your loved ones aren't going to ask for it, but they know they need it as well.
So Ty, I mean, you're well known to the HGTV audience. You have a very popular program on there. What's your best way, since you've been a part of this in your own personal life? What's the best way to assess or prioritize a loved one's need in this kind of situation?
Well, I think you have to do exactly what you said. You have to prioritize, right? And so I think most of the time it's pretty obvious which ones are sort of the most critical. I think you run into the bathroom situation, which is like, look, is the door wide enough to even get into to have mobility, especially if they're already starting to use a cane or a wheelchair? Does that have accessibility? Some things are simple as, like, does it have safety bars so that they can hold on to something when they're sitting down on the toilet, or even a riser pad on the toilet to make life getting up or sitting down so much easier. And then it's just transition of getting in the home, right? So if you've got to go upstairs, that just becomes a real, it's sort of a nightmare, because your fear is they're going to fall. And that could happen whether it's a slippery tile, it could be a loose rug. So it's those kind of things, but it can all come down to lighting. It can also come down to whether or not they have smart technology so it can help them sort of control the environment in their home. But in my mom's case, too, sometimes it's a respiratory issue, so you have to focus more on the quality of the air they're breathing and putting in something like a HEPA filter. So it's really about seeing where they are sort of in their journey of aging with the house that they're in, and prioritizing, like, what can we spend with the budget that we have now, and then just sort of gradually adapt that home to get better with age the same way they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, Ty. I want to follow up with that and open this next question to both of you. You mentioned that, with a budget, especially with inflation being so sky high, renovations can be very daunting. Let's talk about simple improvements to make a home safer for the family and aging loved ones. Ty, let's begin with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, you think about is, like, how can we make accessibility just to get in the house easier, right? I think a ramp is pretty affordable thing you can do, whether you're doing it out of wood, or there's aluminum. There's also just actually doing landscaping and pavers that go right up to your door. Sometimes that's the easiest way. But I would say accessibility, you know, sometimes just letting them have the independence to be able to do their own laundry so that they don't feel like they're just being taken care of and being, you know, looked after all the time. Maybe moving the washer and dryer to a location that's accessible to them so that it's not up or downstairs. But yeah, like, going as big as putting in an elevator, that's a lot of money. That's something that, you know, you really want to sort of put to the back burner. If at all possible, they can still move around in a ramp situation. I think that's going to save you a lot of money. However, you got to remember what you spend on this house that is your own family's house will be passed down to the next generation that's aging, compared to what does it cost to house a family member in another location in a home. And so that's what you have to weigh. Like, what is it going to cost you a year to do that compared to the renovating of a home that's going to be in your family as everybody starts to age?
And, you know, there are sometimes some supports to help pay for some of this. My dad was a veteran. The VA provided ramps for us, and they were these kind of rubber things that fit together like Legos, and they were threshold ramps, but they were vital for us. And the VA actually provided a lot of other supports, including a small grant to help with a bathroom remodel. There may be some supports through the Area Agency on Aging, some local organizations that will help provide ramps or build ramps. So make sure that you reach out and see if there's some supports available in your community.
Yeah, and I think during the holidays, the best thing is just observe, see where they're struggling. If they want to be part of the kitchen experience, like lower countertops, lower table, have them a place to sit where they can cut vegetables. So I think the holidays is a good time to sort of assess.
You guys are giving some great advice for our viewers that are tuning in right now. Where can people go for more information? Because you guys have hit on all kinds of great topics.
Well, visit aarp.org/caregiving, and there you're going to find all of our supports, our tips and our tools, and I have a column there. We have lots of things to talk about care at home and how to make the home safe and make it usable for caregiving as we age. So be sure to visit us there.
Okay, Ty, anything from your perspective?
I would just say keep an eye on your loved ones. I mean, it's interesting how they child-proof and made everything safe when we were younger, and now we're doing it for them as they're older. It's love, you know, it never ends.
Really appreciate the conversation this morning. A lot of useful ideas, a lot of useful tips. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Winter break is a great time for 11th graders to prep for college. Now, they might not want to prep for college. And they'll say, no, Mom, Dad, I don't need to prep for college right now. I'm only in 11th grade. Leave me alone. It's the holidays. Merry Christmas. Well, hey, you got to plan ahead, right? You always have to look ahead, and you're 11th grader. You want them to go to college in most cases. And so now's a great time to prep for those standardized tests. And that's why we got our friend David Blobom with us here on the Action News 5 digital desk. Let me get the right screen up, David, and make sure that you and I are there on the two-shot. You are upgraded here. I see you got a mic. You got a mic screen. You are big time. I knew you way back when. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So let's talk about it here, because I guess the best time to get your kid ahead when it comes to the ACT, when it comes to the SAT, is something like a holiday break, right?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. So I actually got the idea to look into it from Malcolm Gladwell's data in Outliers. So in his book Outliers, he talks about the wealth and education gap in the United States. And he talks about the largest determinant of the wealth and education gap is not difference in school quality. It's actually how students spend their breaks. So during school, basically all students just keep going up, keep learning at about the same rate. It's just during breaks, the wealthy keep learning more, and everyone else kind of just doesn't learn more or even regresses. So the takeaway for all students is keep learning during your breaks. For most students, the easiest way to do that is just go to your local library, get some great books, and read, because reading is the most important skill for getting ahead in school, because a skill at reading impacts a student's performance on all subjects. But how that relates specifically to juniors this year is the best time to study is for the SAT or ACT also is on breaks. And it's a great thing to study because you're learning rhetorical skills, grammar skills, mathematics, reading comprehension. So it can help students in high school, in college, in life to learn those skills. Also help them on the SAT and ACT, and to get into college and get more scholarships for college. So students can start prepping now for that February ACT. No pressure. They can even delete ACT scores at any time if they don't like their result, but that's easier than trying to prep at the end of the year during May and June when their AP exams and finals are.
Okay, and so right now, SAT, ACT, I mean, you can take them, for the February month, and I guess now is the time to really kind of ramp up for that. And I know, based upon our previous conversations, I mean, you are a big proponent of, hey, take the test as many times as you can just to kind of get into the familiarity of taking that entire test, because the more you do it, the better you'll get, right?
Absolutely. So what a lot of families don't know is that most colleges in the U.S. use what's called a Common App. So that's just some centralized app that you input all your information into, and it goes out to all the colleges. On the Common App, you can only put in your highest verbal score ever and your highest math score ever from the SAT. And same thing for the ACT, only your highest English, math, reading, or science scores. So for the vast majority of schools in the country, you can only show them your highest scores anyway. So you can keep taking the test multiple times and even just work your scores up in each individual section. Again, just to be able to highlight your skills and all your hard work to colleges to help you get you in.
You know, David, there's a question that keeps on coming up more and more, because I've had two kids that have gone through this process, and I have a high school senior who's already made his selection. And I keep on getting the question, well, you know, the SAT and the ACT, they're not required by most colleges anymore. And if I don't have a good test, then I should not send it to my prospective colleges. What's considered a good test, and is that still a rule of thumb that you agree with?
Fantastic question, and the question that everyone's trying to ask, and there's so much confusion around this because of that. So the general rule of advice, though it does matter based on the student, the high school that they're coming from, and the college that they're applying to. But the general rule of advice is you can look up a school's median SAT or ACT score, and they'll give you the 50 percentile range. So let's say the 50 percentile range is a 26 to a 30. That means the middle 50% got that score. If you're at the bottom of that middle 50%, so the 26 in this case, or anything above, submit your score. So that means only don't submit your score if you're below that 26, below their 25th percentile. And even in some instances, you still might want to do that. Like if you're from some unknown school applying to a top school, they still might want to submit you, and at least a half decent SAT or ACT score can help get their attention.
Interesting. I like that insight a lot. Let's see. What else can we talk about with regards to the holidays? How people should get started when it comes to prepping for the next exam, the SAT or the ACT? I know a big question is, well, which one should I start testing for? Should I start testing for the ACT or the SAT?
Fantastic. So what I would do if I was in a student's shoes right now is I would Google official SAT practice test, official ACT practice test. Make sure they're the official exams. Download a past official test from the College Board website. Download an official past ACT from either the ACT website, or you can get the ACT study guide that has 5 official tests. Make sure to start with an official test of each, then compare your scores. See which one you do better on, and then just go in that direction. Coming up, there's the March, May, and June SATs. For the ACT, there's the upcoming February, April, June, July ACTs. There's also free prep online from Khan Academy for the SAT, or through the ACT, there's free prep for 20% of students, because 20% of students are on fee waivers. So you can likely get free prep for the SAT or ACT, or buy a prep book, or enroll in a class, or get a private tutor. So there's any way that you learn best, there's resources to help you.
Fantastic. Okay, anything else you want to mention to our audience before we let you go, David?
I would just reiterate that test optional really means that you have the option to apply without test scores and still be considered, but it doesn't mean it's an equal option. So quick example would be Stanford. When you look up Stanford's common data set answers, so you can literally just Google common data set Stanford or any college that you want, they'll tell you what admissions criteria they use in their admissions decisions. Even though they're test optional, they list standardized test scores as very important for their admissions decisions. That's the same weight that they put on a student's GPA. So they're test optional, it's an option, not an equal option. So students can also check a common data set for that school to see, do they actually still care about test scores, even if they're test optional.
David Blobom, Director of Outreach, National Test Prep Association. You always bring it each and every time we talk. Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Okay, we have heard a lot about the FTX founder charged in a scheme to defraud crypto investors. Federal prosecutors have alleged he intentionally deceived customers and investors to enrich himself and others while playing a central role in FTX's multi-billion-dollar scheme. We're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried, a Democrat super donor and the founder of XTX. What does this mean for investors? What does this mean for crypto investors? Is crypto dead? Well, let's bring in Alex McCurry. He is CEO of Solidity.io. Alex, is crypto investment dead? If not, why not?
Crypto investment is very much not dead. I think that what FTX is a prime example of lack of regulation in centralized exchanges, decentralized finance, crypto protocols. The type of technology that we're talking about here is very much so alive and very much so unaffected by FTX. But unfortunately, scammers and fraudsters who are misappropriating funds are going to have a lot more difficulty now with stricter regulation.
So, Alex, tell me what Solidity.io is, first off. Do you deal with crypto investments all the time?
Yeah, so Solidity.io is a Web3 solutions firm. We build full stack software products on the blockchain. We also have a venture studio. So we're constantly building software solutions that are built around crypto and built around blockchain technology. So we see a lot of the sort of technology and the sort of strategies that are used across the industry. And so it gives us a lot of visibility to the types of things that, the types of mechanisms that are used in a positive way in the industry, and also the types of mechanisms that can be used in a very negative way. A good example of sort of the technology being used in a negative way, which I think is a good kind of a good way to sum up what was done by SBF and by FTX, was with the creation of essentially manufactured fake tokens, and using those fake tokens, those manufactured tokens, and leveraging those against their balance sheet as collateral to essentially borrow and take user deposits. We've seen a lot of different tokens created over the last years. Thousands and thousands of tokens have been spun up. You can create an ERC20 token very, very easily if you'd like to create one. And essentially what SBF did is he leveraged FTX's name and FTX's ability to partner with other sort of protocols and technology startups to launch tokens that had inherently very little value or little to zero liquidity, and then use those tokens on their balance sheet to represent collateral for the user deposits that they were receiving in the centralized exchange, taking that real money out, that real Bitcoin, Ethereum, US dollar pegged assets as well, and taking those funds and misappropriating them and gambling with them. So
okay, so Alex, full disclosure, I do have some crypto investments. Been looking at it, been investing, namely Bitcoin, Ethereum, a few others, and I see that it's taken a big hit over the last 12 to 18 months. So can you clear up for our viewers out there, what this collapse means of FTX? Does this really hurt investments long term? I mean, from a perspective of a crypto investor, when are we going to see those crypto investments creep back up again, if at all?
The crypto market is very difficult to predict. I think that it is going to be affected by the macroeconomic conditions. I think you're not able to necessarily predict when things are going to come back. And that's really the biggest sort of thing to remember. You're investing in technology, you're investing in the network, you're investing in these underlying protocols, and you're investing in the belief that digital assets and blockchain and privacy and sovereignty over your assets and the ability to transact across the globe instantly, securely, is technology that people will deem valuable over time, right? That is really the principal sort of basis of investing in digital assets, investing in Bitcoin, investing in Ethereum, investing in sort of those blue chip protocols. And so really your time horizon needs to be much longer. You need to be looking at Bitcoin. You need to be looking at these assets much more like an investment in the early days of the internet or in social media, really life-altering technologies that take time to mature, but ultimately have enough value and have enough potential to be adopted within the broader market to accrue massive amounts of value over time.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned that it's very unpredictable right now of where the crypto market is going. I mean, wouldn't that scare investors right now? I mean, I don't want to invest in anything unpredictable. I mean, there's so many risks involved.
There's certainly risks, and it's certainly unpredictable in the near term, right? If you're talking about a short time horizon, then that's definitely something you need to consider. But if you're looking on a longer time horizon, you're looking at these assets over a long period of time and the value that they bring and the disruption that the technology brings to all of the different sectors that it really is changing, then that's really where you want to be looking if you're trying to accrue value over a longer period of time. So for myself and for others that I know that, their opinions that I respect, their strategy is accumulate these assets at whatever rate you're comfortable with, do it over time, do it while the market is do it when things like FTX happen, right? And the reason for that is because when you have companies like FTX, who are centralized exchanges, centralized authorities, who are basically just a prime example of misallocation of capital by investors and essentially poor management of capital, whether malicious or unintentional, those are not examples of deficiencies in the underlying technology whatsoever. Those are that's poor capital management, and that's fraud. And so that is actually a prime example of an opportunity to accumulate these assets at a discount because of broader concerns around the industry, but has no bearing or no underlying effects on Bitcoin or on the underlying technology.
So let me ask you this, Alex, before we let you go. What do you want people to know about crypto investments with regards to what happened at FTX going into 2023?
I think that crypto investments more broadly are really they're a risk class, they're a risk investment, but you're investing in the underlying technology of what you are, of what you believe in, right? And so you need to identify the opportunity within the technology. You need to be comfortable with the risk, and you need to understand why you're investing in it. And so education is really important. Understanding the underlying technology, the underlying principles of why you think it's going to be adopted, why you think it's going to be useful, is much more important than staring at the day-to-day price and looking at, sort of these high-profile news events. Stay focused on the technology, stay focused on the impact, stay focused on the market opportunity, and you'll be fine.
Okay, Alex McCurry of Solidity.io. We appreciate your time and appreciate the breakdown of crypto investments. Thanks very much.
Good morning. Very active here across the Mid-South. It's all part of a cold front. We've been seeing its impact since yesterday, and it is continuing this morning. Widespread and some heavy rain. We've even had a couple of storm warnings across the Mid-South this morning, and that will continue to be the case over the next several hours. Now, in addition to warnings, we also have a tornado watch that is in effect. Now, at this point, Shelby County has been dropped from that, but as of 7:30 this morning, we do have portions of West Tennessee, Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy counties that are still included in that, all of North Mississippi as well. That tornado watch is going to go through 11 o'clock this morning. And again, a watch means that it can happen. But as far as our storm threats are concerned, it really is going to be heavy rain that continues to be the big issue. We've had reports of flooding across the Mid-South. We've even seen interstates closed down because of flooding and damaging wind gusts too. But yes, we are going to watch out for rotation as we are heading throughout the day today, or at least throughout this morning too. So we've got several flood advisories and warnings that are in effect across the Mid-South, and these are actually individual warnings, but they're all kind of connecting and making one large one here. So again, there is ongoing flooding concerns across the Mid-South as that system tracks towards the east. So by 9-10 o'clock this morning, we should see the leading edge of this front making its way out of Lafayette County over towards Ashland, over towards Corinth too. We're still going to have some widespread rain across West Tennessee, North Mississippi, but eastern Arkansas starting to dry out by 9-10 o'clock this morning. And then by lunchtime, we'll see that drier air continue to make its way into West Tennessee. I think by 11 o'clock or noon, we should start seeing the leading edge of this storm system and the strongest rain and the strongest winds and heaviest rain moving out of the area. But we're still not going to be quite done with the rain, even as we're heading throughout the afternoon and evening. At least some of us, I do think, could see additional storm development, mainly across North Mississippi, maybe eastern portions of West Tennessee as we're heading into late this evening and tonight. Otherwise, we will see that drier air move in by this afternoon for most locations. But very heavy rainfall as we are heading throughout the day today. We could see an additional half an inch to an inch of rain across portions of the Mid-South as that system rolls through. There could even be some locally higher amounts. So the flooding that we're already experiencing this morning, well, it very well could be exaggerated as we're heading throughout the afternoon. And winds are also going to be pretty gusty and breezy today. Winds out of the south giving us some warm air. We've got these winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour this morning, and we're going to see that continue to be the case even as we're heading throughout the afternoon. They'll start to become much more calm as we're heading into this evening with those wind gusts in the teens, and then eventually we should see a calm wind as we are heading into the overnight hours tonight. As mentioned, it still is going to be warm today though with those southerly winds. Highs near 70 degrees across portions of West Tennessee, 68 in Ripley, 68 in Brownsville. We've got 69 in Selmer with 70 degrees here in Memphis. We'll see some low 70s in North Mississippi with 71 in Marks, 70 in Clarksdale. We've got 69 in Tunica, 70 in Forest City with 68 degrees in Blytheville. So unseasonably warm weather continues for today, but once we get this system out of here, drier air moves in and our temperatures will also be cooler, but overall seasonable, meaning right where they should be for this time of year. After all, it is the beginning of January and 70 degrees is unseasonably warm. 57 as we're heading into tomorrow, cooler after that with highs near 50 on Thursday, 52 on Friday. Notice those overnight lows will be a little chilly too with those into the 30s, but we rebound to the 40s for lows as we head into the weekend and mid and upper 50s for highs on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, we could see a couple of isolated showers. Your weekend doesn't look like a total washout, but something that we'll continue to monitor as we are heading throughout the rest of this week.
Okay, I've split the screen here. I want to show you one of the top stories on ActionNews5.com. If you get push alerts from our website, from our app, you probably got a push alert from this. Man charged with first-degree murder released from jail on his own recognizance. That was something that people saw a lot here. But there has been an update with regards to it from what I have. Let's see. Let me go to actionnews5.com here for a minute and show you the latest. Let's see. Hang on a second. Because there was an update here that I wanted to show, and this is the update right here. So the update says, man charged with first-degree murder released by mistake. So this is something that is new information. What we are learning is that he walked out of 201 Poplar with no bond, and it was by mistake, not his own recognizance. So there is certainly some people across the Mid-South that are concerned about the county jail, and they are concerned about the Shelby County criminal justice system. You can read much more about this, but that was the charge and certainly the headline that has been changed with this man charged with first-degree murder released by mistake. Something you can watch on and look at on actionnews5.com. Another superstar that's in our space, our orbit, and that's Talisa Franklin. She's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Happy New Year to my friend Talisa. How are you?
And wonderful. Happy New Year to you and everybody that's watching us on this morning.
So tell me how the New Year's been for you right now, Talisa. Pretty good?
Yes, amazing. You know, I have found it to be true. Many didn't make it, but we were one of the ones that did. And so we made it to 2023, and I'm just excited about it. So I have no complaints. All I know that I'm excited to be on this side of the ground.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I see that you are not wasting time when it comes to 2023, Talisa. You got things cooking already, and I know one of the big resolutions out there, you and I both know, finances, getting out of debt, making sure your money will help you in 2023. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So, you know, I am a believer. You know, many people call me, maybe I'm very frugal, I'm very cheap, they say, but I just understand that money, as my grandma would say, didn't grow on trees, right? It may be made out of trees, but it didn't grow on trees. So you have to be very wise with your finances. And so I was super excited about Pleasant Green Church reaching out to me and say, Talisa, we really want to do something to be a blessing to this community of the North Memphis community and our church. And I was like, Pastor Phillips, yes, I'm excited to come. So I am going to be facilitating for this amazing church, Pleasant Green Church of Memphis, of faith and finances. Because truly in this thing of life, you got to have faith with your finances and knowing when to buy, when not to buy, what to do, how to do it, and just know where you are financially. And so I'm excited to do a two-time every Saturday, the last 2 Saturdays of January, a free workshop. It's not going to cost people anything, Andrew. They can come. They got to register, though. Why? Because I even have a takeaway that I need people to use it to make sure they are accountable in this season so they can see how their finances and their faith has went up in 2023. And so we want everybody to go ahead and register at the pleasantgreenchurchmemphis.org. It is absolutely free. Yeah, you get two workshops for absolutely free to help you better your finances. But we need you to register so I'll know how many accountability books that I need to bring for them. And it's no fee. When I say no fee at all, for people to come out and get the knowledge they need, get the information. You know, I'm very unapologetic. I grew up in a home that we were truly the underprivileged and underserved. And so there was people in my life that pulled me to a side and helped me with my finances, and even helped me how to shift my faith in God with a different level that I never imagined I could be with God at this point in my life. And so I want to share some of those best practices, and then some of my learned best practices, and some of my best practices I have learned to make sure that people understand how to exercise your faith and your finances together. Yes.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. We can all, even if you think that you have a good grasp of finances, it's always good to hear other people's experiences, their successes, learn from their failures. Just try to improve yourself. Self-improvement, right? That's what we all want.
Yes. You know, many people made new resolutions to lose weight, to do this. Can you make the resolution of life that you're going to get your finances in order? Because we don't know what tomorrow holds, but we do know who holds tomorrow, right? But it's important that we get that information that we need so that we can get our finances where God wants them to be.
Absolutely. I love it, Talisa. That's a great event that's coming up. I also want to ask you about your upcoming show. It sounds like you got some interesting guests.
Yes, you know, 2023, we'll have a new Memphis mayor. And I was like, okay, Talisa, how do you start off this year? You started off with asking all of these candidates, because, you know, we got a plethora of candidates that is running for Memphis mayor. And so I got a few of them that I pulled out, and there will be more that we're talking. I got some really great questions that I'm asking them, the hard questions, because we need to make sure that we pick the mayor that can continue just like our past, our mayor, current mayor, I love him, Mayor Jim Strickland. We need somebody that can pick up that torch and keep us moving forward in Memphis. We need somebody that's for the people in Memphis. And so I had so many people, mayoral candidates this week that's going to share why they should be the next Memphis mayor. And hey, we just gonna ask the questions and let the people decide for themselves.
And so that is something that's happening the 2nd through the 6th. So that is this week.
This week, yeah. This week we had, like yesterday, we had Van Turner. Today we have Paul Young. So we have different ones every single day for 45 minutes to an hour conversation. I'm hitting them with the questions because y'all know I love to talk, right? And I really want to make sure these people have the community in mind when you come down to Memphis. And so we have all of these candidates that's sharing, and we got another one coming up with some of the other candidates that is running too, because we really want to hear for real what their heart is. Why do they really want to be Memphis mayor? And I think in this season, as we're going into election season, we got to start voting for people just because we like them. We need to vote for them to make sure they are the change agents that we want to see right here in our city. We got to make these people accountable. I mean, accountable on all ways. They got to be accountable to help us get where we know that we're supposed to be. We're moving Memphis forward.
Absolutely. The community, the culture, the conversation, WAVN, the trends. Talisa Franklin, the one and only. Happy New Year to my friend. We love you so much. And good luck and much success to you and all your staff in 2023. Okay, let's talk about women in STEM right now. There's some challenges there if women want to go into STEM. And when we talk about STEM, we're talking about science, technology, engineering, and math. And it is certainly an issue that comes up from time to time. I want to bring in right now Dr. Sheri Sate, corporate scientist, chief science advocate at 3M. Doctor, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Andrew?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. So what are the top challenges out there for women who want to go into some sort of STEM technologies?
Yeah, women in STEM can face many challenges from early childhood and all the way to late career. And a big reason is that women are simply underrepresented in these fields. There's just not enough of us. And the second factor that can pose challenges is that of pervasive stereotypes. There are stereotypes about girls and women. There are stereotypes associated with the STEM fields. And there are stereotypes about what scientists and engineers should look like, what they do, and how they behave. And for some of these very reasons, I never thought of myself as the science and engineering type when I was growing up. But I've done quite all right. And I think about it every day, you know, how many students, how many scientists, how many ideas, and how many innovations we're all missing out on because of these challenges.
So what would you say to a young girl who is interested in STEM but feels discouraged or, you know, is kind of worried about pursuing science and engineering?
I would say to all young girls what I also tell my daughter. You want to change the world, you want to solve real problems that matter, STEM is for you. We need more people in science, with community-oriented goals and pro-social ideas than ever before. And the last 2+ years have clearly shown us that. And to all the young women who wonder, if they should pursue STEM or leave STEM because humanities may feel more intuitive or more inviting to them, I give them my spiel. I tell them from my own experiences, I found the real shtick is STEM, science, humanities, technology, engineering, and math. So bring that much needed, mindset into science, and don't be discouraged. Science needs you, and more importantly, science needs you to be you.
Let's talk about some of the strides that have been made over the last decade when it comes to women representing in the engineering.
Yeah, it's only about 15% women, so huge disparity there. In other fields, yes, there have been strides that have been made. So overall, STEM workers, 27% are women, so a little over 1 out of 4, but huge disparity in engineering. And from my own experiences and what I've seen in talking to young girls and STEM students and mentees and peers is that there are hurdles across the spectrum, from girls not wanting to go into STEM because it may feel too male-centric. Young women, they do go, but they don't want to continue or stay. And if they stay, they find they don't feel supported or satisfied. So we have to address all of these issues and hurdles because science needs diversity.
What about yourself? What was the most important advice, Dr. Sate, that you received from mentors or from peers, allies along your journey in your career?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by many who can provide sound advice and be a good sounding board. And, it really comes in handy when you're at a crossroads of sorts and you worry about making the wrong decision. And a valuable piece of advice that has really stuck with me is when I was agonizing over a decision and a former boss said, Jayshree, make the best decision for you for now. And that advice from her was just so liberating. That addition of the phrase for now is powerful because we can try to project the future and get all anxious, but there's no telling how things will play out. So make the best decision with what you know and then dive in with confidence and an open mind.
Anything else we want to touch on, Dr. Sate, that we haven't touched on yet that you feel is important about this issue?
Yes, I think we as a society, all of us, have a role to play. We have to challenge those stereotypes, shatter them. We have to dismantle the archetypes and all the constructs that deter women. And I tell you why. We do some research on the global public perception of science called 3M State of Science Index. And the results show that Americans want diversity in STEM. 87% said that. So in fact, we created a docuseries called Not the Science Type, and it highlights the journey of 4 women scientists who have confronted challenges and challenged stereotypes. I want your viewers to watch that. So go to 3m.com/nottthesciencetype and be inspired.
All right, Dr. Cherie Sate, I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so very much. We appreciate your insight. Okay, so medical costs and deductibles are pricier than ever. We all know that. So consumers need to be thinking about something called healthcare diagnostics more than ever before. Let's bring in Dr. Rashonda Rahman. She knows about healthcare diagnosis. And let's talk, doctor, about why it's so important that people learn about healthcare diagnostics. What is it? Good morning.
Good morning. So, as you know, that healthcare costs have been a big consideration for people. Many people don't get screened for various diseases. My area, or cancer, particularly breast cancer. And we know that screening is the biggest driver for many, many years that has dropped the mortality significantly. So we would like to see people getting screenings on time. Now, because of the costs and some of the access issue in lots of distant places and rural parts of the country, people don't access healthcare like we expect them to or want them to. So it's important for people to understand that sometimes delaying some of the decisions are actually costlier in the long run because the treatment options are fewer as we delay those screenings. And we saw a big impact of that, especially during COVID, where lots of lockdowns actually made that situation, which was already not very good, much worse. So I think that the understanding of their deductibles, making sure what their coverage plans are. I see a lot of patients actually, they're not familiar with their own coverage plans and what benefits they have. They seldom talk to their insurance companies directly to know what is covered, what's not covered, and what options are available out there. So I think it will behoove people to educate themselves on what their insurance looks like, what other options in their communities are available, and what access issues can be addressed in local communities as well.
Okay, so doctor, let's back up a second and talk about exactly what healthcare diagnostics are, because I think people want to look into 2023, what they should be asking their provider, their insurance person, their doctor. What should they be asking? Let's first describe what healthcare diagnostics is.
So basically, the thing is that all of us, as we age, we are at risk of certain diseases. So not everybody needs all kinds of diagnostics. So when we talk about healthcare diagnostics, what we're saying is that care according to need. So people's awareness about what their risk is, meaning what is more prevalent, like for women older than 40, breast cancer is important. Women from 21 to about 60, pap smears are very important. So basic guidelines they're aware. Then within those areas, if they have strong family histories of certain diseases, then those are the topics they need to be talking to their physicians about. Once you decide that what disease conditions is putting you at higher risk, then the second layer is diagnostics, is what options are available for that risk. I always tell even our junior colleagues as I train them during their career counseling things, as well as the patients, is that technology is a good servant, it's a bad master. So there are lots of tests out there, lots of very pricey tests out there, but not every test is equally good or beneficial for a particular patient. So that's where the patients need to ask the right questions from their physicians to see what is the best bang for their buck, if you will. So, for example, there was a trend at one time about breast MRIs. MRI is very valuable in breast cancer, but not every woman needs breast MRI for screening. Even after diagnosis of breast cancer, not every woman needs breast MRI. Those type of things are very important to understand.
Okay, and so some of these trends and some of these new technologies that you've been mentioning, how is it shaping the future of healthcare?
So that's where the lots of good news is coming from. As we screen and find diseases early, again, I will use example of breast cancer because that's my area of expertise. As we find very small and tiny cancers, then the question is that we can do a lot better treatment in terms of, first of all, cure rate. Secondly, preserving cosmetic outcome and quality of life, because breast is a very important part of womanhood for people. So we don't need to perform very big surgeries. Now, the technology piece on that is if the tumor is very tiny, and first decision I have to make is, do I even need to remove it? There are some newer technologies where you can ablate and kill the tumor cells within the breast without ever performing surgery. Not all patients qualify for it. That's where you need to seek expert advice. So that's one area. There's cryoablation, radiofrequency ablation, lots of ablative techniques so you don't have scars on your breast. That's one area. The other important thing is that when the cancer is very tiny and we decide that we have to remove it, then the surgeon should be able to find the very tiny cancer. When we had big masses, you could feel and you knew where the cancer was. And that's where technology has helped. There are lots of devices that can be placed in the breast under imaging, which help the surgeon to find the very tiny tumor. There are lots of competing devices. Personally, I've liked Molly, which is a magnetic ocular lesion localization device, which is very helpful because, first of all, it's very, very tiny in size. It's most cost effective amongst what I have tried, the things that are out in the market. And what I did not realize when I started using is that it made the surgical time very short. It made the whole surgery very efficient. So the shorter the anesthesia time was, the better it was for the patient. So those type of areas, I think, is where the technology has helped us out the most.
Okay, so in this new year, and as people go to see the doctor, what are some of the top questions, in your opinion, that people should be asking their doctor in terms of new treatments or diagnosis?
I think that people should definitely be discussing their personal history and family history with the doctors and figure out what are they most at risk of, which cancers, which chronic diseases, whether it's diabetes or hypertension or heart disease or certain cancers. And once they have their top priorities figured out, then what is the best way to screen and get ahead of it? It will be very important. So cancer screenings are the big ones. In terms of, again, colon cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, all those can be screen detected, but our screening rates are not as high as we want them to be. And there are lots of very accessible technologies available to find those cancers very early and treat them very early and to effect cure. So I think those areas will be very, very important for physicians and doctors to have discussions about and not delay till they are symptomatic and already suffering.
Good morning. Very active here across the Mid-South. It's all part of a cold front. We've been seeing its impact since yesterday, and it is continuing this morning. Widespread and some heavy rain. We've even had a couple of storm warnings across the Mid-South this morning, and that will continue to be the case over the next several hours. Now, in addition to warnings, we also have a tornado watch that is in effect. Now, at this point, Shelby County has been dropped from that, but as of 7:30 this morning, we do have portions of West Tennessee, Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy counties that are still included in that, all of North Mississippi as well. That tornado watch is going to go through 11 o'clock this morning. And again, a watch means that it can happen. But as far as our storm threats are concerned, it really is going to be heavy rain that continues to be the big issue. We've had reports of flooding across the Mid-South. We've even seen interstates closed down because of flooding and damaging wind gusts too. But yes, we are going to watch out for rotation as we are heading throughout the day today, or at least throughout this morning too. So we've got several flood advisories and warnings that are in effect across the Mid-South, and these are actually individual warnings, but they're all kind of connecting and making one large one here. So again, there is ongoing flooding concerns across the Mid-South as that system tracks towards the east. So by 9-10 o'clock this morning, we should see the leading edge of this front making its way out of Lafayette County over towards Ashland, over towards Corinth too. We're still going to have some widespread rain across West Tennessee, North Mississippi, but eastern Arkansas starting to dry out by 9-10 o'clock this morning. And then by lunchtime, we'll see that drier air continue to make its way into West Tennessee. I think by 11 o'clock or noon, we should start seeing the leading edge of this storm system and the strongest rain and the strongest winds and heaviest rain moving out of the area. But we're still not going to be quite done with the rain, even as we're heading throughout the afternoon and evening. At least some of us, I do think, could see additional storm development, mainly across North Mississippi, maybe eastern portions of West Tennessee as we're heading into late this evening and tonight. Otherwise, we will see that drier air move in by this afternoon for most locations. But very heavy rainfall as we are heading throughout the day today. We could see an additional half an inch to an inch of rain across portions of the Mid-South as that system rolls through. There could even be some locally higher amounts. So the flooding that we're already experiencing this morning, well, it very well could be exaggerated as we're heading throughout the afternoon. And winds are also going to be pretty gusty and breezy today. Winds out of the south giving us some warm air. We've got these winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour this morning, and we're going to see that continue to be the case even as we're heading throughout the afternoon. They'll start to become much more calm as we're heading into this evening evening with those wind gusts in the teens, and then eventually we should see a calm wind as we are heading into the overnight hours tonight. As mentioned, it still is going to be warm today, though, with those southerly winds. Highs near 70 degrees across portions of West Tennessee. 68 in Ripley, 68 in Brownsville. We've got 69 in Selmer with 70 degrees here in Memphis. We'll see some low 70s in North Mississippi with 71 in Marks, 70 in Clarksdale. We've got 69 in Tunica, 70 in Forest City with 68 degrees in Blytheville. So unseasonably warm weather continues for today. But once we get this system out of here, drier air moves in and our temperatures will also be cooler. But overall seasonable, meaning right where they should be for this time of year. After all, it is the beginning of January and 70 degrees is unseasonably warm. 57 as we're heading into tomorrow, cooler after that with highs near 50 on Thursday, 52 on Friday. Notice those overnight lows will be a little chilly too with those into the 30s, but we rebound to the 40s for lows as we head into the weekend and mid and upper 50s for highs on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, we could see a couple of isolated showers. Your weekend doesn't look like a total washout, but something that we'll continue to monitor as we are heading throughout the rest of this week.
Okay, New Year's resolutions. We've been talking about it a lot over the course of the last few days, even before 2023. You know, which ones are the best ones to have? Which ones can you keep? How is it that most Americans give up after the first month? I mean, that's pretty sad when you think about it. You got to chuckle about it. But when we also talk about the new year, we talk about a new you and perhaps a new career path, of course. Career, workplace, that's something on top of mind of many people. Let's talk about the latest data when it comes to the current job markets and tips for launching a successful job search. Let's bring in our friend we've talked to several times in the past, Angela Copeland, who is now the founder of Copeland Coaching. Angela, Happy New Year to you. How you doing?
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So is it now perhaps the best time or at least a good time to make a career move? What do you say?
Now is an excellent time. A lot of companies, over the holidays put hiring on hold. And if you were thinking of looking for a job, this is the time that they are starting to open back up to hiring. And it's a perfect time to start looking. There are so many resources available. It's a perfect New Year's resolution. It's a great time to start.
You know, last year, Angela, when we talked, you mentioned that it was very much an employee market. I think everybody agreed to the indicators that it was an employees market. Is it still that way? Has it changed at all? What do you see?
It's a great question. I think it's a little more nuanced than the last time we spoke, because we have seen in the news there have been tons of layoffs over the last, few months. But I would keep in mind that those layoffs are in very particular industries, like they're in tech, for example. So there are many industries like travel, financial services, government that are actually still doing really well. And our unemployment rate overall for the U.S. in November was still 3.7%, which is a very healthy unemployment rate. So there are many companies that are still hiring. It is still a good time to be looking. I will say the dynamics have shifted some since the last time that we spoke, but it is a great time to be looking.
What type of jobs are in demand in 2023? You mentioned that there's been a lot of layoffs in tech. What are you seeing most in demand?
The industries I would really focus on are those that will do well through a recession, for example. And some of the areas to look in are banking, like financial services, government. The budget for 2023 was approved, and it is more than it was the previous year. And, other industries like travel, we've seen people starting to travel again. So it's kind of across all job functions. But, hotel companies, for example, are hiring again in a way that they weren't maybe this time last year. So I would really kind of focus on that. And as you're looking online for jobs, you'll see which companies seem to have more jobs posted, which companies seem to be doing better. There's just so much information when you go out and search.
Okay, so now we've talked about, where people need to search, what kind of jobs. It is a good time to kind of make this career move. So let's talk about those secrets to launching a successful job search? Because we all know that launching a search is almost like having a job in and of itself.
It is a job. And the thing is, it is a tough job. Job searching has really evolved in the last, let's say, 10 years. And if you haven't looked in a while, you'll feel very discouraged because you may have to apply to 100 jobs to get one job offer. And you may have family members, especially older ones, that say, like, what's your problem? Like, why aren't you getting a job? But you have to understand that with the way that so many job seekers apply online nowadays, it is a harder process than it used to be. It is really a numbers game. So I would say, don't get discouraged. Find a friend who is also job searching that you can kind of commiserate with. Don't totally rely on family as you're talking about your struggles. And, another thing I really like to recommend is if you have a connection to a company or if you can kind of figure out who the hiring manager is, rather than just applying online, to actually send an email to that person, because you really stand out when you're the one applicant that actually took the time to send an email as opposed to just applying online.
Last time we talked about various employers, again, having almost the upper hand in the job market, many of them asking for that work-life balance, working remotely. What are the trends you're seeing now in 2023? Is working remotely still one of those trends that people want, or at least they ask for, and then they get them from the employer?
It is such an excellent question. This is a really hot topic right now. So you've probably noticed in the last few months, especially, many employers have started asking employees to come back into the office, which lots of employees do not want to do, because after 2 years of working from home, we really saw that it was possible. So I think a big change in the job market right now is that some companies are offering totally work from home, others are asking you to come in person, and some are giving sort of a hybrid option. So if you're a job seeker, pay attention to which is which. There are fewer work from home jobs posted right now than there were this time last year. And there's also more competition for those jobs. So I would say on the flip side, if you're a company that's struggling to hire, switching your jobs to work from home is a really good strategy, because, employees, a lot of them really appreciate the flexibility of working from home. I do think, though, employers are looking for other ways to provide flexibility, whether it's like mental health days or other sorts of, different benefits that are sort of new and different. But work from home is becoming a little more rare than we saw before.
Okay, so we've talked about the job search. We've talked about various trends. We've talked about what we're seeing in 2023. Now, how do we get job seekers to negotiate the best offer that they can get?
Ooh, also very important. So I think the first thing as a job seeker is to do your homework. We are so lucky in today's day and age that there are websites like Glassdoor and LinkedIn that have a lot of salary data. So you can look on Glassdoor, for example, and you can search for a particular company, say FedEx, for example, and you can search by job title and you can get a pretty good idea of what they're paying. The other thing is, when you go through the interview process, a recruiter will very often ask you in the very first interview, how much do you make or how much do you want to make? And it is much more acceptable today to turn around and say, wow, that's a great question. Would you be willing to share your range with me? And very often the employer, that recruiter, will tell you roughly what they are looking to pay. And you can say, yes, I think we're in the same ballpark, without really truly disclosing your numbers. So if you're moving from one industry to another, sometimes you can even double your salary doing this, because maybe this different industry pays much more money. So I think that is really the first start, is don't, show your cards right away, and instead ask questions and have done your research in advance.
What about with you specifically, Angela? What are your clients' biggest struggles that you're hearing?
The biggest struggle, I think, is really the way job searching feels now. In the past, it felt more personal, versus now you're often applying sort of into a black hole. You often don't hear back, or you may interview for a company 10, 11 times and then not hear even a rejection. So the entire process feels harder, I think, than in the past. And really, that is the part that the person has to overcome. I often recommend that people kind of keep a spreadsheet of sort of where they have applied and what's going on so they can kind of keep track and set goals for themselves. How many jobs are they applying to, every week or every month, so they can really see. And again, it really comes down to just, it doesn't feel great. So seeking out a resource, a friend who's also job searching, they're going to have the same struggle and they will really be able to empathize with you.
Angela, let's flip the coin a little bit. What advice would you give hiring managers to land the best talent that's out there?
That is such a good question. So often hiring managers, especially I would say at well-known companies, really take for granted the experience that the person interviewing has. So if you are really interested to land the best talent, it's get back to people when you tell them you will. It is be prompt, it's be transparent. If you've decided to put a job on hold, let the person know. And I think truly, if you want the biggest number of applicants to pick from, make the job remote. Again, so many people want work from home, and there are less work from home jobs available now than there have been in the past.
Angela, this has been so informative to so many of our viewers out there. Any lasting comments before we let you go?
No, I would just say, really get started now. This is the perfect time. Employers really are hiring. Don't buy into the hype that everyone is being laid off, because they're not. Get going and expect it to take, 2 or 3 months, and just kind of prepare yourself for that.
All right. She is the founder of Copeland Coaching. She knows the insight, the market trends, and has great advice if you're looking for a new career and a new job search. Angela Copeland, we always appreciate the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, I want to talk about something pretty interesting. There's a lot of people that are just high performers, high achievers, and they have so many positive traits. I mean, the discipline, the resilience, focus, vision. But sometimes those people that achieve these great things also can kind of get into their head and self-sabotage. And so we want to talk about these things, because I think a lot of times the biggest thing is just being aware that you're doing this and then knowing how to respond to that sort of thing. So joining me now to help kind of shed some light on this topic is Sherry Riley. She is a best-selling author and a high-performance life coach. And I know that you work with the NBA Coaches Association, all kinds of different organizations like that. So you're well-versed on this topic. So let's just kind of talk about just some of the characteristics of those high achievers, and then how sometimes they can kind of get in their own way, right?
In this age of, being a high performer, knowing how to go after what you want to achieve, there's also that downside of using too much of that drive. And a lot of times the confidence does not stay in alignment with the drive. So what I always say is, we have the drive to succeed. Drive is what pushes us to achieve. Confidence is who we are when we get there.
And I know you have a list of 6 ways that high achievers are their own worst enemy. Can we kind of go through that list and just talk about what some of those are? Because like I was mentioning earlier, just being aware can sometimes help you make a change in maybe some of the things you're doing.
Yes, one of the first ones is we have to stop spending 100% of our time on 10% of who we are. That is what allows many high achievers to accomplish their great goals. And so there's this fallacy that if I just work in this 10%, then everything else through osmosis is going to be great in my life. And so we have to be very intentional that personal development is a key to developing and really emphasizing with the intention that other 90% of who we are. And when we do that, it allows us to be more empowered in our healthy life decisions. Because many times we also get to that place of success and realize we don't even know who we are. One of the other keys is ways that we self-sabotage as high achievers is we lead with this idea that we are entitled to our success because we work so hard versus accountability for the success that we achieve. And what happens with that is we get to this place where our ego minimizes who we hear, who we listen to. And that also stops us from growing so that we become better people, not just better in our profession. One of the other keys that I think is really most critical is we don't take time to self-assess. We begin to believe that all of our external success is the total magnitude of who we are. And again, as I said earlier, our skill and talent will take us to levels of success that our character can't sustain, meaning our decision making, how we self-assess the situation, how we're able to manage opportunities and distractions. And so that's when you see a high performer make a decision that you're looking at them like, how could you destroy all that you've worked for based on this bad decision? And that's because, again, our skill and talent would take us to levels of success that our character can't sustain.
This is super interesting to kind of dive into. You know, for one, like you were mentioning, sometimes being kind of in your own lane and not taking advice from other people, because I know in my career field, a lot of the younger generation that's coming in, they have a lot more information about technology and how they're implementing that in the field. And then, you know, everybody has something to bring to the table. And I think you can kind of take a piece of that, like you said, and help you to grow as well. And it's also one of those things, from what I'm hearing from you, it's just balance, because sometimes you get so hyper focused on this one thing that you, like you said, you lose yourself, and it kind of just creates this ripple effect, right?
Well, you highlighted two things. Two other ways is social, this age of technology and just communicating through technology. And what I say all the time is we don't know how to be social in the age of social media. And so what happens is we spend so much time with technology, with high performers, that we lose how to communicate. And so there's so many ways our lack of social communication because of social media puts us in positions where we're misinterpreted. So that communicating just through technology, we need to really expand and be more intentional about how we engage socially. And then you also touched on another with work-life balance. And what I say is work-life balance is a myth. In my book, Exponential Living, I literally in the first 68 pages talk about it being a myth. It's really about that work-life integration. And when we really identify what's most important. And it's really hard when you're a high performer because you've spent so much time developing your skill that we lose sight of really what's most important. And when we stop and self-assess, we start to really speak about our values, which is family, right? Many times our faith. But when we look at where we spend our time is not in alignment with what we say we value. And so as a high performer, we have to really reassess, not work-life balance, but more of that full life integration and answer the question, what is most important? And when we get crystal clear on what's most important, then we make our decisions through that lens. If it's family, then we're able to make decisions where family is first, and then we allow our business and our professional decisions to be amplified through that lens of family first. So where we get out of sync emotionally is we say family is our most important value, but when we look at our time, when we look at our intention, family is usually last on the list. And that's what causes that internal conflict that many high performers are challenged with. And one of the greatest areas of growth for high performers is they've achieved so much externally, but they have this huge void internally. And that's where we began to experience that depression or really feeling out of sync and not performing at our highest level because we have that void and we think that more work will fill it, when the truth of the matter is it really is about making what's most important.
That's a good point, too, because a lot of times people, especially with the social media world these days, and you see these people achieving all these things, they post it, and then, like you said, they're doing all of these things, but at the same time, a lot of times there's that void. And, I know you're a high-performance life coach. Is this something you run into a lot? What is the biggest thing that people come to you saying that stands out?
Oh, my goodness. Yes, because they create a persona for social media. And then many times it's not in alignment with who they are and what they value in their own personal life. And so they get lost in, how do I continue to be this high performer or position myself in a way that isn't in alignment with really who I am? And so what I really work with on my clients is, how do we change the conversation in our own heads? That's one of the first places we have to start, because many times what we're pursuing is peace. And we think that external success, financial stability, a fabulous relationship or family is going to give us that peace. And one of the greatest challenges for a high performer is to reach all the levels of success they've worked so hard to get to and realize that they're miserable. And so we have to really stop and really evaluate what's most important. And the most important thing is their inner peace. And when we get to that place of recognizing that money will never give you peace, accolades and success will never give you peace, we have to pursue the peace first. And then that empowers us to really fully enjoy the experiences of our success. And that's really where I start with my high performers, is really with that conversation in their own head, so that they can begin to really self-assess what's most important, and then make sure that they do the personal development work so that who they are professionally and who they desire to be personally absolutely align with each other.
And I think it's so important to self-assess, you know, because a lot of times you have a hard time even putting into words how you feel, why you feel, how you fix it, and that sort of thing. So sometimes taking that step back and almost kind of taking a step back, stopping, smelling the roses, where you realize, okay, this is where I need to start making changes, and this is, you know, what's causing this problem. Is that something that you agree with?
Absolutely. Gratitude heals so much of our angst, so much of our anxiety, and so much of our fears. It's just gratitude. And with a lot of my clients, they've worked so hard to achieve their success that they've never just stopped and enjoyed where they were. And one of the areas of growth that we really focus on is never allow what you want to achieve to rob you of what you've already accomplished. Never allow what you want to achieve to rob you of the joy of what you've already accomplished. And so many times it's just allowing them a safe place to stop and enjoy the success that they've achieved while still being hungry and driven for that next level of success. And that all starts with that gratitude and really being able to appreciate what they've accomplished. Because many times the challenge is, if I stop and enjoy where I am, then I'll lose that fire. I'll lose that drive. I'll lose that passion that pushed me to get to this level of success. And what I always help them understand is, no, gratitude allows you to reboot. Right? All of our technology, our computers, our phones, our iPads, in order for them to be their most productive, they have to stop. They have to reboot. And that's what I help them understand, is that gratitude is just that reboot that allows you to reignite that passion, but in a more healthy way.
I think so many people can relate to this. And I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with, that I've tried to make a point of doing more, is just being fully present in what I'm experiencing. Because sometimes you get so caught up in life that you're not even fully present or fully appreciating the, you know, some of those moments. Is that, I mean, do you kind of understand what I'm saying with that?
That is one of the greatest challenges, is this myth about multitasking, is that we have to be, and it's hard because when you are a high performer, and you can definitely relate to this, is you're always, you know, pressed and stressed and concerned about what's next, or you're evaluating, what did I do wrong and how do I do better from what happened in the past, where our most powerful place is in the present. And what I help my clients with is that whether you're at work or at home, your presence is not enough. You have to be present. And many times we think our presence is enough. Well, I'm here, but I'm on my phone. I'm thinking about this. I'm more concerned with that. I'm trying to, you know, be on social media to do this. and we're missing what's right in front of us. And that's where the anxiety amplifies, is because we're not present. And so the essence of exponential living is pursuing peace, choosing clarity, and living courageously. Because when we commit to being present, that's where that inner peace is our power. And when we commit to that peace, that's when we get clarity. A lot of times with high performers, because we have so many responsibilities, we're just not clear. And so we've got to focus on our peace, which gives us clarity. And then when you bring that peace and that clarity together, that's when you have the courage to do that inner work. That's when you have the courage to stop spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are, the courage to self-assess, the courage to understand communication outside of technology, the courage to understand that you've got to lead through accountability and not entitlement. And so when we get to that place of peace and clarity, that's when we have the courage to make sure that these 6 ways that high performers can self-sabotage, we eliminate those and be more productive in every area of our life. And that's really the goal, is to be the best you, not just the best career you or sports you or athlete you, but to be the best you in every area of your life.
Sherry, this has been a great conversation. I think it's helpful to so many people, myself included. Is there anything else you want to make sure to hit home about before we let you go?
Well, I would definitely say these 6 ways of self-sabotaging, I really spend more time and give more insight in my book, Exponential Living, Stop Spending 100% of Your Time on 10% of Who You Are, where I share the 9 principles that really serve as the how. How do we really show up and really be intentional about eliminating all those areas of self-sabotage so that we can really experience exponential living?
Sherry Riley, author and high performance life coach. I've really appreciated having you on here today, and you have a good one, all right?
Thank you. You too.
That does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Action News 5 at midday at the top of the hour begins with Ariana Poindexter. Make sure you join her for not only the news of the day, but also the latest on the forecast and some of the flooding that we've been seeing across Memphis and the Mid-South. And then join us tomorrow morning bright and early at 8 o'clock for another edition of the Action News 5 Digital Desk.